The silent decision. You felt it, this pull, this knowing, not loud, not dramatic, just steady. It shows up when the world finally goes quiet, when the noise fades and you're alone with yourself. You don't need anyone to explain it to you. You already understand. Something inside you is done with the old way, done waiting for permission, done pretending you're comfortable where you are. You've carried this frustration with dignity. You've kept showing up. You've stayed patient. And still something feels unfinished. That isn't weak. That is awareness. That is the moment before change. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are early to a version of yourself that demands more. You've outgrown what once felt safe. You've outgrown the need to be seen before you're ready. You don't need applause to move forward. You need clarity. You need space. You need truth. This is that moment, the quiet one. The moment where excuses fall away without force, where ambition doesn't shout, it waits. You can feel it now. That steady pressure in your chest. Not anxiety, purpose. Not fear, readiness. You didn't arrive here by accident. Every disappointment sharpened you. Every delay prepared you. Every time you kept going when no one noticed, you were training for. Breathe. Slow down, let the stillness settle. This isn't the end of something. This is the pause before everything accelerates. Say it to yourself now. I am ready. You've been strong for a long time. Strong in ways no one claps for. Strong enough to keep your doubts quiet and your responsibilities loud. Strong enough to carry expectations that were never yours to begin with. But strength evolves. What once helped you survive will not help you rise. And you know it. That's why this feeling won't leave you alone. You can keep going the same way and remain respected, or you can choose something deeper and become undeniable. This is where tension begins. Not outside, inside. Between who you've been and who you're becoming. The world still expects the familiar version of predictable, available, explained. But something in you is pulling away, not to disappear forever, to disappear with intention, to step back so you can step up. This is not escape. This is strategy. This is you deciding that your future deserves your full attention. No announcement, no justifications, just commitment. You don't need to convince anyone. The work will speak later. Right now, silence is your ally. Silence gives you room to think clearly. Silence lets your discipline grow without interference. Silence builds strength that doesn't crack under pressure. You're not withdrawing, you're concentrating, you're not losing connection. You're choosing direction. Let the discomfort be there. It's proof that you're shedding an old identity. Stay with it. You're not alone in this moment. You have yourself. And that is enough. I rise. Listen closely now. This is where the tone changes. No one is coming to save you, not because you don't deserve support, but because you were never meant to be rescued. You were meant to lead yourself. You were meant to decide. Waiting has cost you time. Explaining has cost you energy. Hoping others will understand has cost you momentum. That ends here. You don't need a signal. You don't need approval. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a decision. A clean one. A quiet one. A decision that doesn't ask for permission. Stop explaining. Start building. Stop announcing. Start moving. You already know what needs to be done. You know the habits that must change. You know the discipline you've been avoiding. You know the standard you've been negotiating. Enough. Stand up. Focus. You rise now. This is not about proving anyone wrong. This is about proving yourself right. You are capable of more focus than you've allowed, more courage than, more leadership than you've claimed. Command your time. Command your attention. Command your effort. You don't need to rush. You need to commit. Say it again. I am ready. Now feel the relief. The relief of not needing to perform. The relief of not needing to explain your absence. The relief of choosing depth over noise. This is what happens when you stop chasing validation and start building identity. Your nervous system settles. Your thoughts sharpen. Your energy returns. You realize how much strength you were spending just maintaining appearances. You don't need to carry that anymore. You get to choose your pace. You get to choose your focus. You get to choose who has access to you. This relief is not comfort. It's alignment. It's the feeling of finally moving in the right direction. You don't need to disappear from the world. You need to disappear from distractions, from opinions that dilute you, from habits that weaken you, from conversations that keep you small. This is temporary withdrawal for permanent elevation. And deep down, you trust yourself enough to do this. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. Let the calm return. Let your breathing slow. Let the confidence settle in your body. You are not late. You are right on time for your next level, and you haven't even begun yet. This is where empowerment takes root. Quietly, firmly, you begin to see yourself differently, not as someone waiting for a break, but as someone creating one. Not as someone reacting, but as someone directing. Leadership starts here, in private, in discipline, in the decisions no one sees. You don't need motivation every day. You need identity. Identity is what gets up when motivation doesn't. Identity is what stays consistent when emotions fluctuate. You are becoming someone who keeps promises to yourself, someone who finishes what they start, someone who doesn't need to announce progress to feel powerful. Imagine that version of you, focused, calm, unshakable. Imagine walking back into the world months from now with a different present. Fewer words, stronger posture, clear eyes. That future is pulling you forward right now. Let it. This is not fantasy. This is direction. And every step you take in silence brings it closer. I decide who I become. Stay here a moment longer. Feel the seriousness of this choice. Not heavy, grounded. This is a line you don't cross back over. Once you decide to build in silence, you don't crave noise the same way again. You begin to trust process over praise, effort over excitement, consistency over intensity. This is where real confidence is born, not the loud kind, the durable kind, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself. You are stepping into a season that will test you quietly. Days where no one checks in. Weeks where progress feels slow. Moments where the old habits whisper. That's when this decision matters. That's when you remember this moment, this calm, this clarity, this commitment. You didn't choose this because you chose it because it was necessary. And you will keep choosing it again and again until it becomes who you are. Something is changing now. You can feel it. This is only the beginning. Chapter 1. The power of vanishing. Summary. Disappearing is reframed as dominant. You are taught that silence is not weakness, it is leverage. This chapter dismantles the addiction to visibility, validation, and noise. You step away not to hide, but to sharpen. Core lesson: silence builds gravity. Key themes: calm withdrawal from distraction, tension of being misunderstood, command to choose solitude, relief through clarity, empowerment through self-trust. Command lines: go quiet. Protect your energy. They don't need updates. Listener affirmation: I decide who I become. Chapter 1. The power of vanishing. There comes a moment when the strongest move is not forward, not louder, not faster, but inward. You feel it now. A subtle urge to step back, to stop broadcasting, to stop reacting, to stop feeding a world that consumes attention without giving clarity. This is not retreat. This is recognition. You are realizing that power does not announce itself. It assembles itself, quietly, patiently, intentionally. You have spent enough time being visible without being fully formed. Enough time explaining your goals before they were ready to stand. Enough time giving pieces of your energy away and wondering why your focus felt thin. This is where that ends, calmly, cleanly. You don't disappear because you are afraid. You disappear because you are serious. Serious about your future, serious about your potential, serious about becoming someone whose presence carries weight. Silence is not absent. Silence is preparation. Let that settle. Breathe. You are not losing ground. You are claiming it. At first, the quiet feels unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. You've been conditioned to equate movement with noise, effort with exposure, progress with proof. So when you stop posting, stop explaining, stop responding to every signal, the mind protests. It asks questions. It seeks reassurance. It wants validation. That is the tension, not from the world, but from old habits losing control. You are breaking an addiction to being seen before you are ready to be felt. And addictions resist. They whisper doubts. They tell you that if you're not visible, you're forgotten. If you're not loud, you're irrelevant. If you're not updating, you're falling behind. That is noise. That is fear disguised as urgency. You don't obey it anymore. You observe it. You let it pass. You remain still. Because stillness is where leverage is built. When you are not constantly reacting, you can finally see clearly. When you are not constantly performing, you can finally refine. When you step away from the crowd, you gain perspective the crowd never has. This is the beginning of gravity. People with gravity don't chase attention. Attention bends toward them. Misunderstanding will come, not because you are wrong, but because you are changing. When you go quiet, people project. They fill the silence with their own assumptions. Let them. You don't correct every story told about you. You don't owe clarity to curiosity. You owe discipline to future. The tension of being misunderstood is part of the sharpening. It tests your self-trust. It asks a simple question. Do you need to be understood or do you need to be effective? You already know the answer. You are done negotiating your vision with people who aren't building anything themselves. This season is not about being liked. It's about being aligned. And alignment often requires solitude, not loneliness. Solitude, chosen, intentional, powerful. Solitude gives you uninterrupted time with your thoughts. It reveals patterns you couldn't see while distracted. It strengthens your ability to sit with discomfort without escaping. That skill alone separates leaders from followers. Go quiet, not forever, just long enough to hear yourself think again. Now the command becomes clear. Protect your energy, not aggressively, strategically. Every interaction costs something. Every conversation pulls attention somewhere. Every explanation drains focus. You begin to notice how often you were leaking energy just to stay relevant in rooms that didn't matter. That awareness is freeing. You don't need to attend every discussion. You don't need to answer every message. You don't need to react to every opinion. You are building something internal first. Structure, discipline, direction. These require protection. Energy protected becomes energy compounded. Focus protected becomes momentum. Silence protected becomes strength. They don't need updates. The people who matter will feel the shift when you return. The rest were never part of the destination. Let that be okay. You are not here to manage perceptions. You are here to build capacity. Capacity to handle pressure. Capacity to lead. Capacity to execute without needing external fuel. This is dominance practiced quietly. No rush. No noise, just steady accumulation of skill and confidence. And then comes the relief, the surprising lightness that follows restraint. When you stop trying to be everywhere, you realize how heavy that effort was. When you stop explaining your path, you feel how much clearer it becomes. Your mind slows down, your decisions sharpen, you start acting instead of debating. This relief is not comfort, it's control. You are no longer pulled in 10 directions. You choose one. You move deliberately. Days feel longer because your attention is no longer fragmented. Work feels deeper because it's uninterrupted. Rest feels real because it's earned. This is clarity, and clarity creates calm, not passive calm, focused calm. The kind that lets you see obstacles early and navigate them without panic. You are not hiding from the world. You are recalibrating yourself within it. This quiet is doing work on you even when nothing seems to be happening. Trust that. You are building foundations no one can shake because no one saw them poured. Self-trust begins to grow here, not from affirmations shouted into the mirror, but from evidence collected in silence. You said you would wake up early. You did. You said you would train your mind. You followed through. You said you would work when no one was watching. You showed up. Each small promise kept reinforces a deeper belief. I can rely on myself. That belief is priceless. It cannot be given. It must be earned. And it is earned in moments like these. Alone. Focused. Consistent. This is where leadership is forged, not in front of an audience but in private discipline. When you trust yourself, you stop needing external reassurance. You move differently, you speak less, you listen more, you choose your battles, you choose your time. And when you do speak, people notice, because your words are backed by gravity. Silence has done its job. It has condensed your energy instead of scattering it. Feel the rhythm now. Calm returns as you accept the quiet. Tension rises as old habits resist. Command cuts through as you choose solitude anyway. Relief follows as clarity settles in. Empowerment grows as self-trust solidifies. And the cycle repeats, each time stronger, each time cleaner. This is how transformation actually happens, not in sudden explosions, but in disciplined withdrawal followed by intentional return. You are learning when to step back so your next step forward lands with force. This is strategic patience. This is long-term thinking. This is you playing a deeper game than before. Most people confuse visibility with value. You no longer do. You understand that what is rare attracts attention naturally, and focus is rare. Discipline is rare. Silence with intention is rare. You are becoming rare. There will be moments when the urge to break the silence returns. When you want to announce progress. When you want acknowledgement, notice it without judgment, smile at it and let it pass. You are training restraint. Restraint builds authority. Authority is felt, not declared. You are not shrinking, you are condensing, like pressure creating strength, like still water reflecting truth. You don't need to rush this phase. Every day you remain committed, your foundation deep. You are becoming someone who does not need to prove they are working, someone who lets results arrive fully formed, someone whose absence makes room for growth. This is not isolation. This is incubation. And what is incubating within you is powerful. As this chapter closes, you can feel the shift already. Less urgency to be seen, more urgency to be ready. Less concern with opinion, more commitment to execution. This path will test your patience, but it will reward your discipline. You are stepping into a phase where progress is quiet and transformation is internal. That is where real change begins. Hold this line. Stay silent. Stay focused. Stay committed. The world does not need updates. It will feel the impact soon enough. Say it to yourself now, steady and certain. I decide who I become. Chapter 2. Cutting the noise, claiming your mind. The first thing you notice when you begin to cut the noise is how loud it was all along. Not just outside of you, but inside. thoughts layered on thoughts, expectations stacked on expectations, voices you never invited speaking as if they owned space in your head. You didn't realize how crowded your mind had become because distraction learned to disguise itself as normal. Notifications felt harmless. Conversations felt necessary. Habits felt earned. But now, standing at this point in your transformation, you can sense it clearly. Your attention has been under constant occupation. And attention is not a small thing. Attention is life force. Wherever it goes, your future follows. This chapter begins with awareness, calm awareness. No judgment, no self-attack, just recognition. You are not weak for being distracted. You are human in a world designed to pull you apart. But you are no longer willing to live divided. You are here to reclaim territory, mental territory, the most valuable ground you will ever own. Disconnection comes first, and it feels uncomfortable. There is no way around that. When you begin to step back from constant input, the mind reacts. It reaches outward, it looks for stimulation. It wants something to scroll, something to answer, something to consume. This discomfort is not a problem, it is a signal that your mind has been trained to stay busy rather than stay focused, to react rather than to direct. Sit with that feeling. Don't rush to escape it. This is the moment where control begins to return. Calm yourself, breathe. You are not missing out, you are tuning in. The silence you are creating is not empty, it is clearing space. Space for thought. Space for intention, space for depth. This is how you begin to hear your own mind again instead of the echo of everyone else's priorities. As the noise fades, tension rises, because clarity demands responsibility. When you can no longer blame distraction, you must face direction. When your mind becomes quiet, it asks you questions you can't ignore. What actually matters? What deserves your best energy? What are you avoiding by staying busy? These questions carry weight, and weight creates pressure. This is where many people turn back. They fill the silence again. They reintroduce noise so they don't have to choose. You are different. You stay. You let the tension sharpen you instead of scaring you away. You understand that pressure is part of growth. You are not here for comfort. You are here for command. The battlefield is not the world outside. It is the space between your thoughts. And every time you choose focus over distraction, you take ground. Attention is currency. Spend it poorly and you live in scarcity. Invest it wisely and everything compounds. You begin to see how casually you were spending it before. A few minutes here, a few minutes there. Conversations that led nowhere. Content that added nothing. Reactions that solved no real problem. None of it seemed dangerous in isolation, but combined it diluted you. Now you are changing that. You are becoming deliberate. You don't give attention to anything that does not move you forward or restore you deeply. This is not arrogance. This is stewardship. You are responsible for your mind. No one else can guard it for you. If you do not choose where your attention goes, something else will choose for you, and it will not choose in your favor. Close the door, not out of anger, out of respect for your future. Discipline replaces motivation here. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation rises and falls. Discipline stays. You are no longer waiting to feel like focusing. You are training yourself to focus regardless of mood. This is a leadership skill. Leaders do not wait for ideal conditions. They create them internally. You create them by setting boundaries, clear boundary. When you work, you work. When you rest, you rest. When you think, you think. No overlap, no constant switching. Multitasking is not strength. It is fragmentation, and fragmentation weakens decision-making. You feel the difference almost immediately. At first, the mind resists. It wants variety, it wants novelty, but soon it settles. It begins to enjoy depth again. One task, one thought, one direction, focus, again and again. Each repetition strengthens the muscle of control. Mental boundaries are not walls, they are filters. You decide what gets in, you decide what stays out. You decide what deserves response and what does not. This takes practice and patience. You will catch yourself slipping. You will notice moments where attention drifts. Do not criticize yourself. Correct yourself. Gently but firmly. Bring your focus back. Every return is a victory. Every moment of regained attention reinforces authority over your own mind. You are not trying to become someone else. You are reclaiming yourself. The version of you that can sit with a problem until it is solved. The version of you that can think deeply without needing interruption. The version of you that does not panic when stimulation is removed. This is mental strength, and it is built, not wished for. As focus returns, relief follows, a quiet relief, the kind that spreads through your body rather than announcing itself. Your thoughts slow down, not because you are less ambitious, but because they are no longer scattered. Decisions become simpler, priorities become obvious. You stop feeling pulled in multiple directions. There is a center again, a sense of control. You realize how much mental energy was being wasted on things that did not matter. And with that realization comes calm, not passive calm, grounded calm, the calm of someone who knows where they are going and why. This relief does not make you complacent. It makes you precise. You act with intention instead of impulse. You respond instead of react. This is what happens when the noise loses its grip. Empowerment grows quietly. You start trusting your ability to choose focus. You stop fearing boredom. You stop fearing silence. You stop fearing being unreachable for a while. You know that nothing important is lost in that space. What is gained is far greater: depth, mastery, direction. You are no longer available to everything. You are committed to something. That shift changes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you decide. You feel it. Others will feel it later. Your mind answers to you now, not perfectly, not effortlessly, but consistently. And consistency is power. This is only the beginning of reclaiming your mental territory. The noise you have cut was obvious. The deeper distractions are more subtle: habits disguised as necessity, thoughts disguised as truth, patterns disguised as personality. Those will surface next. And when they do, you will be ready. You have already proven something important. You can step back. You can choose focus. You can hold your attention steady. Stay here. Stay disciplined. Stay aware. The battlefield is revealing itself layer by layer, and you are learning how to win. You reach a point where chasing results no longer satisfies you, not because results don't matter, but because you've learned something deeper. Results are temporary. Identity is permanent. What you build inside determines what shows up outside. And right now, you can feel the shift. You are no longer interested in quick wins that don't last. You want alignment. You want consistency. You want to become someone who produces results as a natural consequence of who they are. This is where the real work begins. Quietly, internally, you are standing at the line between who you have been and who you are choosing to become. This is not a motivational moment. This is a decision point. Calm your breathing. Slow your thoughts. Let this land. You are not here to force outcomes anymore. You are here to redefine yourself. For a long time, the old version of you operated on reaction, reacting to circumstances, reacting to pressure, reacting to opportunity when it appeared. That version did its best with what it knew. It survived. It learned. It got you here. Respect that. Honor it. But do not confuse appreciation with loyalty. You are not obligated to stay the same just because a version of you once carried you through difficult times. Growth requires separation. The old self is comfortable with effort only when motivation is high, comfortable with discipline only when results are immediate, comfortable with identity that shifts based on environment. The new self is different. The new self is steady, decisive, internally anchored. This chapter is about that separation. You versus your old self. Not with anger, with clarity, with maturity. You are not fighting who you were. You are outgrowing who you were. At first, this creates friction, identity friction, because habits are loyal to the person you used to be. They pull you backward subtly. They remind you of shortcuts. They remind you of excuses that once worked. They remind you of comfort disguised as logic. You feel the tension when you try to act differently, when you try to wake up earlier, when you try to think longer, when you try to hold a higher standard without external pressure. That tension is not failure. It is proof that change is happening at deepest level. You are rewriting internal agreements. Agreements about effort, about focus, about what is acceptable from yourself. Stay with that discomfort. Do not rush to escape it. The space between old identity and new identity is where transformation is forged. You begin to realize that outcomes were never the problem. The problem was inconsistency of self. You wanted consistent results without consistent identity. That mismatch creates frustration. Once you see this, you cannot unsee it. Results don't appear because you want them. They appear because your daily behavior aligns with who you are. Identity drives behavior. Behavior drives outcomes. This is the order. Reverse it and you live in disappointment. Respect it and you live in progress. This understanding changes how you approach everything. You stop asking, "What do I want to achieve?" and start asking, "Who must I become to achieve it naturally?" This is leadership thinking, long-term thinking, foundational thinking, and it demands honesty. The old self negotiates. The new self decides. The old self asks how long something will take. The new self commits regardless of timeline. The old self waits for confidence. The new self builds confidence through action. These differences may seem small, but they compound. Every decision you make is a vote for one identity or the other. There is no neutral ground. Even doing nothing is a vote. That realization creates tension, because now responsibility is clear. You can no longer blame circumstances when identity is in your control. This is where many people retreat. They prefer ambition without ownership, desire without responsibility. You do not. You stay present. You stay accountable. You stay engaged with the truth. Decide, not emotionally, internally. Decide who you are becoming. Internal standards replace external pressure here. You no longer wait to be watched to perform. You no longer need deadlines imposed from the outside to move with urgency. Your standards are self-governed, quiet, firm, non-negotiable. This is not about being harsh with yourself. It is about being clear about what you tolerate from your own behavior, clear about how you show up when no one is checking, clear about what level of effort you consider acceptable. Internal standards create freedom, because when they are set, decision-making becomes simple. You don't debate whether to act. You act because that is who you are now. This removes friction. This conserves energy. This builds momentum. You start acting as the leader even before anyone calls you one. You lead your time. You lead your focus. You lead your emotions. You don't outsource discipline to circumstance. You don't wait for permission to operate at a higher level. Leadership begins internally, or it doesn't begin at all. This is a quiet transition. No announcement, no title change, just behavior aligning with vision. You plan ahead. You think long-term. You prioritize what matters over what feels good. These are leadership behaviors, and behavior shapes identity faster than belief ever will. Act as the leader, again and again. Each repetition reinforces who you are becoming. Long-term vision begins to anchor. You stop measuring success by today's mood or this week's outcome. You zoom out. You think in years, in seasons, in direction rather than speed. This stabilizes. It removes panic. It removes the urge to rush or compare. You understand that identity compounds just like habit, slowly at first. Then suddenly, the future version of you becomes clearer, not as fantasy but as trajectory. You can see the difference between where you are and where you're going. And instead of feeling overwhelmed, feel grounded, because you are no longer chasing that future self. You are building them daily. There is a moment in this chapter where something clicks. You realize that the person you are becoming is already watching you, watching how you handle resistance, watching how you respond to boredom, watching how you behave when results are delayed. Your future self is watching, not with judgment, with expectation. Expectation that you will rise to meet the identity you are claiming. This awareness sharpens. It doesn't pressure you. It focuses you. You want to earn that future, not rush it. You want to arrive with integrity, with strength, with alignment. As this first part closes, the old identity has not disappeared yet. It is still nearby, familiar, comfortable, but it no longer controls you. You have named it, you have understood it, and you have begun to step beyond it. The shift has started, quietly, firmly. You are no longer chasing outcomes. You are building a self that produces them. Hold that awareness. Stay in that tension. The deeper work is coming, and you are ready for it. I rise. The shift you've begun does not announce itself. It deepens, quietly. You start noticing moments where the old version of you would have reacted and the new version pauses instead. Moments where impatience once ruled and now restraint steps in. This is identity taking root, not as an idea but as behavior. You are no longer asking yourself what will get the fastest result. You are asking what reinforces who you are becoming. That question changes everything. It changes how you work when no one is watching. It changes how you speak when no one is listening closely. It changes how you treat your time. You feel the difference. It's subtle but undeniable. You are beginning to live from the inside out. The old self lived in cycle, bursts of effort followed by drift, intensity followed by exhaustion, hope followed by frustration. That pattern was never about ability. It was about identity not being anchored. When identity floats, behavior follows emotion. When identity is rooted, behavior follows standard. You are learning to root yourself. This takes patience, because habits don't disappear overnight. They test you. They wait for moments of fatigue, moments of doubt, moments when discipline feels heavy. This is where identity proves itself, not when things are exciting, but when they are repetitive, when progress is slow, when no one is noticing. In those moments, you are choosing who you are again and again. Each choice strengthens the new self. There is a quiet confidence that begins to emerge when you stop needing outcomes to validate effort. You work because that is what you do now. You prepare because that is who you are now. This removes pressure. You are no longer desperate for results to prove your worth. You are building worth through consistency. That consistency becomes stabilizing. It grounds you. You don't rise too high on winds. You don't sink too low on delays. You remain steady. This steadiness is rare, and rarity creates value. People who operate from identity rather than outcome are not easily shaken. They are not easily distracted. They do not abandon the process when it stops being exciting. They understand something most people never do. The work is the point. Internal dialogue begins to change here. You speak to yourself differently, with clarity instead of chaos, with direction instead of doubt. The voice in your head becomes a leader instead of a critic, not because you silence honesty, but because you remove drama. You tell yourself the truth without punishment. You correct course without self-attack. This is emotional maturity, and emotional maturity is a leadership skill. You are no longer trying to motivate yourself through pressure. You are guiding yourself through principle. This makes discipline sustainable. It makes effort repeatable. You are building a relationship with yourself that is based on trust, and trust changes how far you're willing to go. The tension between old and new identity still appears, but it feels different now. It's less loud, less controlling, more like an echo fading with distance. You notice it when you're tempted to take shortcuts, when you want to postpone what you committed to, when you want comfort instead of progress. In those moments, you don't argue with yourself. You don't justify. You simply return to identity. This is not who I am now. And that statement carries weight because you've backed it with action. You've shown yourself evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief builds consistency. Consistency builds results. The chain is strengthening. You begin to understand the cost of identity drift. You see how easily people lose momentum by abandoning who they said they would become. Not because they failed, but because they stopped identifying as the person who follows through. You don't judge that. You learn from it. You see why so many chase outcomes endlessly without ever stabilizing. They change tactics, not identity. You are doing the opposite. You are stabilizing first. Outcomes will follow, not instantly, not dramatically, but reliably. This is long-term vision in action. You are playing a game that rewards patience and depth, and you are prepared for that. Act as the leader even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Leadership is not about control over others. It is about command over self. When you lead yourself well, everything else becomes possible. You manage your energy. You protect your focus. You keep promises you make in private. These behaviors accumulate quietly. They don't look impressive at first, but they create something unbreakable: integrity. And integrity is the foundation of confidence, not the loud kind. The kind that doesn't need to convince. The kind that doesn't need to compare. The kind that stands steady. When pressure increases, you notice how your decisions begin to align more naturally with your long-term vision. You don't have to force discipline as often. You don't have to negotiate with yourself as much. Alignment reduces friction. This is what happens when identity and action move in the same direction. You feel less resistance internally, less mental noise, less self-doubt. Not because you've eliminated uncertainty, but because you've chosen direction. Direction calms the mind. Direction gives effort meaning. Direction reminds you why you're here when motivation fades. And it will fade. That is normal. Identity carries you when motivation cannot. There is a quiet pride that develops here, not arrogant, pride rooted in self-respect. You respect yourself because you see yourself honoring commitment. You respect yourself because you are no longer betraying your own standard. This self-respect is fuel. It strengthens resolve. It sharpens focus. It makes it harder to go back to who you were. You are building a gap between your old behavior and your new standard. That gap becomes protective. You don't want to cross it backward. You've worked too hard to build this version of yourself. Your future self feels closer now. Not distant, not idealized, real. You can imagine their routines, their posture, their way of thinking. And instead of feeling pressure to become them overnight, you feel responsibility to act in alignment today. This is healthy ambition. It's grounded, it's patient, it's sustainable. Your future self is watching, yes, but not impatiently. Watching with trust that you are doing the work required. That trust matters. You don't want to break it, so you show up. Even when it's quiet, even when it's repetitive, even when no one is checking. As this part comes to a close, you are standing more firmly in the new identity. Not perfectly, not completely, but deliberately. You are no longer drifting between versions of yourself. You are choosing repeatedly, calmly. The separation between old and new is becoming clearer. The work ahead will demand even more consistency, more honesty, more ownership, but you are no longer guessing who you are becoming. You are living it, step by step, decision by decision. Stay here, stay aligned. The final integration is coming. Now the identity begins to settle, not as something you are trying to be, but as something you are becoming without effort. This is how you know the shift is. You no longer need reminders to act with discipline. You no longer need emotional buildup to do what matters. Action feels quieter now, cleaner, more deliberate. You move with less hesitation because your decisions are no longer up for debate. Identity has reduced friction. This is the reward for the work you've been doing internally. You are no longer asking yourself who you should be in each moment. You already know, and that knowing creates stability. Stability creates power. The old self still exists as memory, but it no longer has authority. You can see it clearly now. The patterns, the compromises, the moments of delay disguised as logic. There is no anger toward that version of you, only distance. Distance created by growth. You understand something important. Identity is not a label. It is a practice. It is reinforced daily by what you choose when no one is watching. This understanding makes you careful in the best way. You are intentional. You don't casually break commitments anymore. You don't casually waste time. You don't casually speak against your own standards. Not because you are rigid, but because you are aligned. Alignment removes the need for force. You feel a deeper sense of ownership over your life. Not control over everything, but responsibility for yourself. That responsibility no longer feels heavy. It feels empowering. You stop asking for permission to take yourself serious. You stop waiting for external validation to confirm your direction. You validate yourself through follow-through, through consistency, through integrity. This is how confidence becomes unshakable. It is built privately and revealed gradually. You are not performing confidence. You are grounded in it. Long-term vision becomes clearer now, not as a distant image, but as a direction you are already walking. You understand that the future is not something you arrive at suddenly. It is something you earn slowly, through habit, through standard, through daily alignment. You stop being impatient with the process because you trust the trajectory. This trust changes how you experience time. You are not rushing. You are progressing. You are not anxious. You are intentional. You are not distracted by what others are doing. You are committed to what you are building. This commitment is calm, but it is unbreakable. There is a moment when you realize that outcomes are already responding to your identity. Small shifts at first, subtle improvements, more consistent performance, clearer inking, stronger boundary. You don't celebrate too early, you stay steady, because you know the real victory is not the result itself. It is the fact that you can reproduce it again and again. That ability comes from identity. You have built a system inside yourself, a system that does not depend on mood or circumstance, a system that works even when conditions are imperfect, especially then. You carry yourself differently now, with less urgency, with more presence. You don't need to rush conversations. You don't need to prove competence. You don't need to explain your discipline. Your behavior communicates it. This is leadership presence. It is felt, not announced. You are becoming someone others can rely on because you rely on yourself first. This reliability creates respect, quietly, naturally, without demand. You don't chase it, you allow it to form. Your internal standards are now automatic. You don't negotiate. You don't need to remind yourself why they matter. They are part of you. This frees mental energy. You spend less time deciding and more time execute, less time doubting and more time building. This efficiency compounds. Days become more productive without feeling heavier. Effort feels purposeful instead of draining. You are not forcing discipline. You are expressing identity. You begin to notice how little you need external motivation now. Encouragement is welcome but not required. Criticism is heard but not destabilizing. You are anchored. That anchor is internal. This is emotional independence. And emotional independence is strength. You are no longer moved by every opinion. You are guided by principle. This makes you calm under pressure. Calm under pressure is a competitive advantage. It allows you to think clearly when others rush. It allows you to lead when others hesitate. Your future self feels close now, not as pressure but as partnership. You feel aligned with who you are becoming. There is no longer a gap filled with guilt or impatience. There is continuity. Today supports tomorrow. Tomorrow reflects today. This alignment creates momentum that does not burn out. You are not sprinting toward a finish line. You are building a pace you can sustain. This is mastery thinking, and mastery thinking changes everything. As this chapter closes, something important locks in. You understand that outcomes are no longer the goal. They are indicators that identity is working. You don't chase them. You observe them. You adjust behavior, not self-worth. You refine standards, not ambition. This keeps you grounded as success grows. It keeps you steady as challenges return, because they will. Growth does not eliminate difficulty. It prepares you. You are no longer becoming someone someday. You are becoming someone now with each decision, each boundary, each moment of discipline. The old self has served its purpose. The new self is taking responsibility, fully, quietly, confidently. Hold this identity, protect it, reinforce it daily, because everything you build from here will be built on who you are, not what you chase. And that is why it will last. Say it with certainty, with calm strength, with ownership. I rise. Discipline has been misunderstood for a long time. You were taught to see it as restriction, as pressure, as something heavy that takes freedom away. That belief kept you negotiating with yourself, waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel motivated, waiting to feel different before acting different. Today, that belief ends. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is love in action. It is the highest form of self-respect you can practice. Every time you do what you said you would do, you send a clear message inward. I can trust myself. That message changes everything. Calm yourself for a moment and let that truth settle. You are not here to force yourself forward through pain. You are here to support your future with structure. There is a quiet dignity in keeping promises to yourself. No one sees it. No one applauds it, and yet it is the foundation of confidence. Confidence does not come from words you tell yourself. It comes from evidence you show yourself. Evidence is built through follow-through, small acts, repeated daily. You don't need extreme discipline. You need consistent discipline. You don't need perfect days. You need honest ones. Discipline becomes lighter when you stop trying to use it to change who you are and start using it to honor who you are becoming. This is where strength begins to grow without force. At first, pressure rises because discipline removes escape routes. When you commit to structure, excuses lose their hiding places. You can no longer say you didn't know what to do. You can no longer say you didn't have time. The structure reveals truth, and truth demands responsibility. That responsibility can feel heavy at first, not because you are incapable, but because you are no longer avoiding yourself. Stay with that feeling. It is temporary. On the other side of it is control, real control, the kind that doesn't depend on mood or circumstance, the kind that stays steady when things are uncomfortable. Daily structure becomes your ally here, not rigid, reliable. Structure gives your energy direction. You stop wasting mental effort deciding when to start. You already know. You stop debating whether to act. It's scheduled. Structure reduces friction. Friction drains willpower. You are no longer burning energy just to get moving. You move because it's time. This is how discipline becomes sustainable. You don't rely on emotional intensity. You rely on rhythm. And rhythm carries you further than bursts of effort ever could. There will be mornings when you don't feel like it. That is normal. That is human. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It asks who you are. When resistance shows up, you don't negotiate. You acknowledge it. Then you act anyway. Do it anyway, not aggressively. Calmly, you stand up, you focus, you begin. The moment you begin, resistance loses power. Resistance thrives on delay. Discipline breaks delay. This is a skill, and like any skill, it strengthens use. Every time you act despite discomfort, you build confidence that cannot be shaken by emotion. Small wins start stacking quietly, almost invisibly. You wake up when you said you would. You complete the task you planned. You end the day knowing you kept your word. These wins may seem insignificant to others. They are not insignificant to you. They are building something critical: trust. Self-trust compound. The more you trust yourself, the less energy you waste doubting. The less you doubt, the more consistent you become. Consistency creates confidence, not loud confidence, stable confidence, the kind that does not collapse under pressure. Emotional control becomes possible through discipline. When your actions are structured, your emotions follow more easily. You stop riding emotional highs and lows. You create steadiness. You don't need to feel inspired to work. You don't need to feel calm to think clearly. You act first. Emotion follows. This reverses an old pattern. You are no longer controlled by how you feel in the moment. You are guided by who you have decided to be. This is emotional maturity, and emotional maturity is power. There will be days when the pressure increases. More responsibility, more expectation, more fatigue. This is where discipline reveals its true value. You are not scrambling. You are not improvising. You already have a structure to lean on. You already know what matters. Pressure does not break you. It sharpens you because you have trained for it, quietly, daily, without drama. This is how strength grows, not through intensity alone but through repetition. You keep your word, especially when no one is watching, especially when it would be easy not to. This is the line you don't cross anymore. When you say you will do something, you do it, not perfectly, honestly. This honesty builds pride, not ego, pride rooted in integrity. You respect yourself more because you are dependable to yourself first. That respect changes how you show up everywhere else. You speak with more certainty, you move with more intention, you stop over-explaining. Your actions already explain enough. As this part comes to a close, you can feel the shift happening. Discipline no longer feels like force, it feels like support. Structure no longer feels limiting, it feels freeing. You are beginning to understand that freedom is not the absence of rules, it is the presence of self-mastery. And self-mastery is built one kept promise at a time. The pressure will continue to rise, and so will your strength. Stay here, stay consistent. The deeper layers of discipline are about to reveal themselves. As discipline settles into your days, something subtle begins to change. You stop seeing it as something you summon and start experiencing it as something that supports you. It becomes less about force and more about identity. You don't wake up asking if you will show up today. You wake up knowing you will. That knowing reduces mental noise. It creates calm. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. When your mind is not arguing itself, your energy becomes available for what matters. This is where momentum starts to feel real, not rushed, not frantic, grounded. You begin to notice how often emotion once dictated your behavior. If you felt good, you acted. If you felt tired, you delayed. If you felt unsure, you waited. Discipline interrupts that cycle. It does not ignore emotion. It simply refuses to be governed by it. You learn to acknowledge how you feel without letting it decide what you do. That separation is powerful. It creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, you choose. Choice is freedom. This is self-respect in motion. You are telling yourself that your goals matter more than momentary discomfort. And every time you do that, our confidence strengthens. Daily structure continues to carry you. You stop improvising your days. You stop hoping things will fall into place. You plan, you prepare, you decide in advance. This removes friction before it appears. When the time comes to act, there is no debate. The decision was already made by a calmer version of you. This is leadership over self. Leaders don't make decisions in the heat of emotion if they can avoid it. They decide when they are clear. You are learning to do the same with your own life. This reduces regret. This reduces inconsistency. This builds trust. Pressure does not disappear. It increases, but it feels different now. It no longer feels like something happening to you. It feels like something you are equipped for. When demands rise, your structure holds. When stress appears, your habits anchor you. You don't fall apart when things stack up. You prioritize, you execute, one task at a time. Discipline simplifies complexity. It narrows your focus to what actually moves things forward. This is how you avoid burnout. Not by doing less, but by doing what matters with intention. Small wins continue to stack and their effect compound. You begin to feel proud of your consistency. Not in a loud way, in a grounded way. You know you can rely on yourself. That knowledge changes how you approach challenges. You don't panic as easily. You don't avoid as quickly. You trust that you will do what needs to be done, even if it's uncomfortable. That trust is stabilizing. It creates emotional safety within yourself. You no longer need constant reassurance from the outside. You have proof on the inside. Emotional control deepens here. You notice that your reactions soften. You don't spike as high or drop as low. Discipline creates rhythm, and rhythm regulates emotion. You sleep better because your days have order. You think clearer because your attention is not scattered. You recover faster from setbacks because you don't interpret them as personal failure. You see them as part of the process. This emotional steadiness is strength. It allows you to stay in the game longer, and longevity is power. There will be moments when the structure feels boring, predictable, repetitive. This is where many people abandon discipline. They confuse boredom with stagnation, but repetition is where mastery is built. Repetition is where identity solidifies. You are not here for constant novelty. You are here for growth. Growth often looks quiet from the outside, but internally it is reshaping you. Stay committed during the dull moments. They are doing more work than the exciting ones ever could. You begin to see discipline as protection. Protection from your own inconsistency. Protection from impulsive decisions. Protection from distractions that pull you off course. This perspective changes how you relate to effort. You are not forcing yourself to do hard things. You are safeguarding your future. Every disciplined action is an investment, not in results alone, but in the kind of person you are becoming. A person who finishes. a person who follows through, a person who can be trusted with responsibility. Stand up, focus. This is not a command shouted in anger. It is a reminder spoken with respect. You are capable of more than comfort allows. You don't need to punish yourself to grow. You need to support yourself with standards that are firm but fair, standards that stretch you without breaking. You learn to listen to your limits without surrendering to. This balance is maturity, and maturity is strength that lasts. As discipline becomes more integrated, you notice how much lighter decision-making feels. You don't constantly ask what you should do. You already know. Your standards answer for you. This frees mental space. That space can now be used for creativity, strategy, and vision. Discipline does not kill creativity. It protects it. It gives creativity a container. Within that container, your best ideas can actually be executed. You keep your word, even when it's inconvenient, especially then. This consistency is shaping your identity in real time. You are no longer someone who tries. You are someone who does. That shift is profound. It changes how you see yourself, and how you see yourself determines how far you will go. You are building something durable now, something that does not collapse under pressure. As this part closes, the pressure continues to rise, not to crush you but to strengthen you. Discipline is no longer something you practice occasionally. It is becoming part of who you are. And with each day of consistency, your confidence grows quieter and stronger. The final layer of this lesson is coming, and it will ask even more of you. Stay steady. Stay committed. You are ready for what's next. Now discipline stops feeling like something you practice and starts feeling like something you live. It moves from effort into instinct, not because it became easy, but because it became normal. This is the turning point. The moment when consistency stops requiring constant reinforcement and begins reinforcing you instead. You no longer ask yourself if you should show up. You ask yourself how well you will show up. That difference matters. It marks the shift from compliance to ownership. You are not following rules anymore. You are honoring yourself. You begin to recognize the quiet power of routine, not as monotony but as stability. Stability gives you something to stand on when the world feels unpredictable, when emotions fluctuate, when pressure spikes, when expectations collide. Your routine doesn't argue, it holds. It reminds you who you are when things get loud. This is why discipline is self-respect, because you built something dependable inside yourself. You don't collapse when days are heavy. You don't drift when motivation fades. You return to structure, again and again. That return is strength. There is a deeper emotional control that forms here, not suppression, regulation. You feel emotions fully, but they no longer hijack your behavior. You can feel tired and still act with purpose. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. You can feel pressure and remain composed. This is not emotional numbness. This is emotional leadership. You are leading yourself through states instead of being dragged by them. That skill compounds. It shows up in conversations, in decisions, in moments where others react and you respond. This is where respect begins to follow you without effort. You notice how discipline reshapes your self-talk. You no longer promise things you don't intend to keep. You no longer inflate expectations you won't meet. You speak to yourself with clarity, with honesty, with intention. When you say you will do something, your body believes. That alignment between word and action creates inner peace. Peace does not mean stillness. It means coherence. Nothing inside you is pulling in opposite directions. You are not divided anymore. You are focused. Small wins continue to accumulate, but now they carry a different weight. They are no longer just proof of effort. They are proof of identity. Each completed task reinforces a simple truth. You are someone who follows through. That truth begins to influence how you think about bigger challenges. You don't shy away from them. You break them down. You apply the same discipline that has already proven itself. One step, one day, one promise kept. This is how large goals stop feeling intimidating. You already know how to handle them. You've been training. Pressure increases again. More responsibility, more demand, more expectation from yourself and others. But this time it does not feel threatening. It feels appropriate, like weight added to a bar you are ready to lift. Discipline prepared you for this. It built capacity. It built resilience. You don't rush. You don't panic. You adjust and continue. This adaptability is confidence in action, not rigid, not fragile, strong and responsive. You trust yourself to handle what comes next because you have handled what came before. You begin to see how undisciplined moments once cost you more than you realize, not just in productivity but in self-respect. Each broken promise weakened trust. Each delay created doubt. Now the opposite is happening. Each kept promise strengthens belief. Each disciplined action reinforces identity. You are rebuilding trust with yourself daily. That trust changes how you walk into rooms, how you speak, how you listen. There is less need to convince, less need to prove. You know what you're capable of because you've demonstrated it to yourself repeatedly. Discipline also teaches you when to rest. Real rest, not escape, not avoidance. Intentional recovery. You no longer push mindless, you push with awareness, you rest with purpose. This balance prevents burnout. It allows you to sustain effort over time. You are not trying to win today at the expense of tomorrow. You are building something that lasts. Longevity requires discipline just as much as intensity. You understand that now, and you respect yourself enough to honor it. There is a calm authority that develops here. You don't announce discipline, you embody it. Others may not know your routines or your standards, but they feel the result. Your presence is steadier. Your responses are measured. Your commitments are reliable. This is leadership energy. It does not seek attention, it attracts trust. People begin to depend on you, not because you demand it, but because you deliver consistently. That reliability starts with self-respect. You gave it to yourself first. Do it anyway. This phrase no longer feels like resistance. It feels like alignment. You do it because it matters. You do it because you said you would. You do it because this is who you are now. Stand up. Focus. These words are not harsh. They are grounding. They bring you back to center when distraction tries to pull you away. You keep your word, not out of fear, out of pride. Pride rooted in integrity. As this chapter comes to a close, discipline is no longer something you're trying to install. It's something you're protecting. You guard it because you know what it gives you. Confidence that doesn't waver. Emotional control that doesn't crack. Self-respect that doesn't depend on outcomes. You are stronger now, not because pressure disappeared, but because you grew into it. And this strength is quiet, durable, earned. You are ready for what comes next, because you can trust yourself to show up for it. Chapter 5. Working while no one claps. There is a stretch of the journey where the noise disappears completely. No praise, no recognition, no visible reward, just you, your effort, and the quiet awareness that no one is watching. This is the part most people never prepare for. They imagine success as loud and immediate. They imagine progress being noticed and celebrated. But real progress often happens in silence, in rooms where no one else enters, in hours no one counts. This is not punishment. This is proof. Proof that you are building something real, something that does not depend on applause to survive. Loneliness shows up here, but not as pain, as contrast. You feel the difference between external validation and internal conviction. At first, the absence of feedback feels strained. You wonder if you're doing enough, if it matters, if it's worth it. Those questions are natural. They surface when external markers disappear. But this is where internal validation is born. You begin to ask a different question. Would I still do this if no one ever knew? When the answer becomes yes, something powerful locks in. You are no longer performing, you are building. Delayed gratification is not denial, it is investment. You are choosing to place effort into the future rather than spending it for immediate comfort. That choice creates tension. The mind wants reassurance, it wants evidence, it wants proof now. You resist that urge, not aggressively, calmly. You understand that momentum is forming beneath the surface, like roots growing before a tree appears. Nothing above ground yet, everything happening below. This is how strength is developed, quietly, patiently. Without witnesses, you begin to realize how much of the world runs on reaction. People move when they are praised. They stop when attention fades. You are learning to move without either. This is rare. This is why it matters. You are training yourself to operate from principle rather than reward. Principle lasts longer, reward fluctuates. When you build from principle, your effort becomes consistent, and consistency creates momentum that cannot be stopped easily, even when no one is clapping, especially then. There are nights when you finish your work and the room stays silent. No messages, no acknowledgement, no confirmation that today mattered. You sit with that silence. At first it tests you, then it strengthens. You learn to let the work be enough. You learn to let progress be private. This privacy sharpens. It removes the temptation to exaggerate, to rush, to perform. You don't need to sell what you're building. You need to finish it. That mindset changes everything. Internal validation grows slowly but powerfully. You start measuring days differently, not by what others saw, but by what you completed. Not by reactions, but by integrity. Did you show up when it was hard? Did you keep going when motivation was absent? Did you honor your commitment when no one was checking? These questions become your scoreboard, and you are winning more often than you think. Each quiet win reinforces belief. Each completed task adds weight to your confidence. This confidence does not shout, it settles. Quiet endurance becomes your advantage. You are no longer in a hurry to be noticed. You are in a process of becoming undeniable. Endurance is not dramatic, it is steady. It shows up day after day without needing excitement. You build tolerance for repetition. You build patience for long timelines. You build resilience for delayed results. This endurance separates those who last from those who burn out. You are not sprinting anymore. You are pacing yourself for distance. There are moments when doubt tries to re-enter. It asks if silence means failure, if lack of feedback means irrelevant. You answer with action, not argument. Keep going. You don't stop to defend your path. You walk it. Every step forward is a response. Every hour invested is a statement. This is where winners are made, not on stages, not in highlight moments, but here, in repetition, in obscurity, in quiet rooms where discipline replaces applause. You begin to feel momentum even when nothing external changes. That is how you know it's real. Your skill improves. Your focus sharpens. Your confidence stabilizes. These changes don't need witnesses. They are preparing you. Momentum does not require noise. It requires direct. And you have direction now, clearer than before. You know why you are doing this. You know who you are becoming. That clarity fuels endurance. Keep going. The command is simple because the work is not. You don't need to complicate it. You show up. You execute. You rest. You repeat. Don't stop. Not because stopping is failure, but because consistency is power. Each day you continue, the gap between you used to be widened. That gap protects you. It makes it harder to go backward. You are building a version of yourself that does not need permission to persist. This chapter is not loud yet. The intensity is building. Pressure is rising slowly. The silence is getting heavier, but you are holding it. You are learning how to carry effort without recognition, how to trust progress without proof. This is the foundation of unstoppable momentum, and you are standing right on top of it. The hardest part is not behind you. It is shaping you. Stay here. The quiet is about to break. The silence deepens here, not the peaceful kind, the testing kind, the kind that asks questions without speaking. You wake up, you work, you repeat. Days pass without acknowledgement. Progress continues without witnesses. This is where the mind looks for exit. It wonders if effort without recognition is wasted. It wonders if visibility would make this easier. That thought is a temptation, not truth. You don't follow it. You let it pass, because you are learning something essential now. The work is not losing value because no one sees it. The work is gaining power because it does not depend on being seen. Delayed gratification stops being a concept and becomes a lived experience. You feel the weight of choosing long-term gain over short-term comfort. You feel it when you say no to distractions that would make today easier but tomorrow weaker. You feel it when you keep going even though no one is checking. This weight does not crush you. It conditions you. It teaches you patience that cannot be taught any other way. Patience earned through effort becomes confident. You are not guessing whether you can last. You are proving it daily. There is a moment when you realize that applause can be addictive. It feels good. It gives energy, but it also changes behavior. It pulls effort toward what is noticed instead of what is necessary. Working without applause corrects that. It realigns you with purpose. You stop asking what will look impressive and start asking what will actually matter. That shift refines your judgment. You make better decisions because you are no longer optimizing for reaction. You are optimizing for results that last. This is maturity. This is leadership thinking forming quietly. Internal validation strengthens here, but it does not come all at once. It grows in layers. You notice it when you finish a difficult task and don't feel the urge to tell anyone. You notice it when you choose rest responsibly instead of escaping. You notice it when you stay disciplined even though there is no external consequence for quitting. These moments accumulate. They build a sense of inner authority. You begin to respect yourself differently, not because you feel good, but because you are being honest with your effort. Quiet endurance is no longer theoretical. It is lived. You are enduring monotony. You are enduring uncertainty. You are enduring the gap between effort and outcome. This gap is where many give up, not because they are incapable, but because they misinterpret silence as failure. You don't. You understand that silence is often the sign that you are early, not wrong. Early phases are quiet by nature. They are not meant to be shared. They are meant to be survived. Your routines carry you. Discipline shows its value again. When motivation fades, structure remains. You don't need excitement to continue. You need commitment. Commitment does not require emotion. It requires decision. You already made it. That decision is holding you steady. You trust it more with each passing day. Trust reduces internal conflict. Reduced conflict frees energy. You use that energy to go deeper, to improve skill, to refine process, to strengthen focus. These improvements are subtle, but they are compounding. There are days when loneliness tries to disguise itself as doubt. You feel disconnected from others. You feel separate. That separation is not rejection. It is alignment. You are in a phase where your priorities are narrowing. Not everyone can follow you. Not everyone needs to. You are not isolating yourself out of fear. You are concentrating yourself out of purpose. That distinction matters. Purpose-driven solitude strengthens. It teaches you to rely on your own direction rather than constant reinforcement. You begin to notice how resilient you are becoming. Setbacks don't derail you as easily. Delays don't discourage you as deeply. You have trained yourself to continue without emotional reward. That training shows up Here you are calmer under pressure, more patient with process, less reactive to outcome. These traits are not accidental. They are the result of working while no one claps, of choosing to stay when leaving would be easier, of trusting the unseen. Keep going. The command carries more weight now. It is no longer encouragement. It is instruction. You know why you're here. You know what you're building. You don't need reassurance. You need persistence. Don't stop. Even when progress feels slow. Even when silence feels heavy. Especially then. This is where winners are made. Not because they are immune to doubt, but because they continue through it. Momentum is building beneath the surface. You can feel it in your efficiency, in your clarity, in your confidence. These changes are not loud, but they are real. They are preparing you for visibility later. Visibility without foundation collapses. You are building foundation first. That is why this phase matters so much. It is shaping you to handle what comes next without losing yourself. The pressure is increasing now, not suddenly. Gradually, the silence feels thicker. The work feels heavier. This is intentional. This is the lead-up. You are being conditioned to hold intensity without release, to maintain effort without applause, to trust momentum without evidence. This conditioning is rare, and rarity creates strength. Stay present. Stay disciplined. The quiet is about to reach its breaking point. This is the stretch where the silence stops feeling empty and starts feeling heavy. Not because you're weakening, but because the weight of what you're carrying has increased. You've stayed. You've worked. You've endured without reassurance. Now the pressure tightens. The mind checks in again, quieter this time, asking if you're sure you want to keep going like this. You don't answer with words. You answer with presence. You are still here. That alone says everything. You begin to understand that unseen effort doesn't just build results. It builds capacity. Capacity to handle responsibility. Capacity to handle success without losing discipline. Capacity to stay grounded when attention finally arrives. Many people crumble when the spotlight turns on because they never learned to work without it. You are learning the opposite. You are learning how to move forward when nothing external is pulling you along. That makes you dangerous in the best way. It means your momentum is self-generated. The loneliness no longer feels sharp. It feels neutral, familiar. You don't romanticize it. You don't resent it. You accept it as part of the process. You see it clearly now. This phase was never meant to be crowded. Too many voices would dilute what you're building. Too much feedback would distort your direction. This quiet gave you room to refine, to make mistakes privately, to strengthen weak areas without embarrassment, to grow without comparison. You didn't lose connection. You gained clarity. Internal validation is no longer something you're practicing. It's something you're standing on. You trust your effort because you've seen its consistency. You trust your direction because you've tested it in silence. You trust yourself because you didn't quit when no one would have noticed if you did. That trust changes how you move. You are no longer looking over your shoulder for approval. You are looking forward with intent. That intent sharpens your actions. You waste less time. You hesitate less. You act with purpose. And then the intensity begins to rise. The days feel heavier. The work feels slower. The silence feels louder. This is the moment. This is the edge. Your breathing shortens. Your thoughts tighten. The pressure builds. You've done everything right. And still, nothing has broken open yet. This is where most stop. Not because they can't continue. Because they think this is the sign to quit. It's not. This is the sign you're close. Keep going. Don't stop. The pressure is not here to crush you. It's here to compress you, to condense your effort, to sharpen your focus, to harden your resolve. Stay with it. One more rep. One more hour. One more day. Keep going. Don't stop. This is where winners are made. Not when it feels good. Not when it's visible. But here, when the work asks for more. and gives nothing back yet. Your heartbeat steadies, your breath slows, your posture straightens. You don't rush, you don't panic, you endure. And then something shifts, not outside, inside. The pressure breaks, not explosively, cleanly. You feel lighter, clearer, stronger. The silence no longer questions, it supports you. You realize something important. You didn't need the applause. You never did. You needed this. This stretch, this resistance, this proof. Proof that you can hold effort without reward. Proof that you can trust momentum you cannot yet see. Proof that you can keep showing up without being pulled. That proof changes you permanently. Now your momentum is real, unstoppable, because it does not rely on conditions. You've crossed a line most never reach. From effort that depends on motivation, to effort that flows from identity, from waiting to be seen, to being ready when you are. You don't crave recognition anymore. You're prepared for responsibility. You don't rush the reveal. You respect the build. You don't need noise to validate progress. You feel it in your execution, in your endurance, in your calm. This is quiet power, and quiet power lasts. As this chapter closes, the world is still silent, but you are not. Inside, something is moving. Something is ready. The work you did in the dark is about to matter. And when the moment comes, you will not need to rise suddenly. You've already been standing. Chapter 6, The War with Excuses. There is a quiet moment when you realize something important. The obstacle was never lack of ability. It was never lack of opportunity. It was never lack of time. It was the story you told yourself about why you couldn't act yet. That realization does not arrive with shame. It arrives with clarity, calm, almost relief, because once you see it, you stop fighting shadows. You stop blaming conditions. You stop negotiating with circumstance. You finally face the real opponent, excuses, not as enemies to hate, as habits to outgrow. Excuses are subtle. They don't sound like weakness. They sound reasonable. They sound responsible. They sound patient. They often wear the language of logic, just not now. When things settle down, when I have more clarity, when I feel ready. These phrases are familiar because they have protected you before. They helped you avoid risk. They helped you avoid disappointment. They helped you stay safe. But safety is no longer your goal. Growth is. And growth requires ownership. Ownership begins when stories end. This is not a confrontation filled with anger. It is not harsh. It is firm, mature. You are not attacking yourself. You are taking responsibility for yourself. There is a difference. Emotional maturity means you can look at your own patterns without collapsing into guilt or defensiveness. You don't deny them. You don't dramatize them. You simply acknowledge them. Excuses are habits. Habits can be replaced. That truth alone is freeing, because if something is learned, it can be unlearned. If something is practiced, it can be changed. You begin to notice how often excuses appear at the edge of discomfort, right before effort, right before commitment, right before consistency is required. They don't appear randomly, they appear strategically. Their job is to preserve comfort, to delay action just long enough to keep things familiar. Once you see that pattern, you stop personalizing. You stop thinking something is wrong with you. You understand that the mind is trying to protect you from uncertainty. You thank it for the intention. Then you take control anyway. Ownership is not heavy. It is light. Blame is heavy. Excuses are heavy. They require maintenance. They require memory. They require consistency to uphold. Ownership removes that burden. When you own your choices, you stop carrying explanations. You stop rehearsing justifications. You free up energy. That energy returns to where it belongs. Action, focus, direction. This is why ownership creates freedom. Not because it makes life easier, but because it makes it simpler. There is a moment in this chapter where you stop saying, "I can't," and start saying, "I choose not to." That shift is powerful. It restores agency. It returns control. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are an active participant in your life. You may not control everything, but you always control your response. You control effort. You control consistency. You control whether you show up honestly or hide behind reason. This awareness does not pressure you. It empowers you, because now change is possible. You don't eliminate excuses by fighting them. You eliminate them by replacing them with decisions. Decisions are clean. Excuses are messy. Decisions say this matters. Excuses say maybe later. Decisions move time forward. Excuses keep you suspended. You are tired of suspension. You want momentum. Momentum requires clarity. Clarity comes from choice. You choose to stop telling stories that keep you small. No more stories, not dramatic ones, not subtle ones, none. Self-leadership begins here. Not when things are easy, but when accountability becomes internal. You stop waiting for consequences from the outside. You become your own standard. You don't need pressure to act. You act because you decided to. This is leadership at its core. Leading yourself through discomfort without self-attack. Leading yourself through uncertainty without escape. Leading yourself with calm authority. You are learning how to do that now. Responsibility stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like alignment. You are aligned with truth, with reality, with your own potential. You don't deny obstacles. You simply stop using them as reasons to delay. You work around them, through them, despite them. This builds confidence that is grounded, not inflated. You trust yourself because you stop lying to yourself. That trust strengthens quickly. It changes how you speak internally. You don't exaggerate difficulty. You don't dramatize resistance. You see things as they are, and then you act. Excuses lose their power when they are seen clearly. You notice how repetitive they are. Same themes, different situations. Once you recognize them, you don't argue, you interrupt. You choose, you move. You don't need to feel ready. You need to be honest. Honest about what you want. Honest about what you are avoiding. Honest about the cost of delay. This honesty is not cruel. It is respectful. You respect yourself enough to stop pretending. You begin to understand that every excuse postpones confidence. Confidence does not arrive before action. It arrives after follow-through. Each time you act without an excuse, you build evidence. Evidence replaces doubt. Doubt dissolves excuses. The cycle reverses. This is how habits change. Not overnight, consistently, calmly. You don't need to eliminate every excuse today. You need to stop obeying them. That alone shifts the balance. The war with excuses is not loud. It is internal, quiet, decisive. You don't announce it, you practice it. You catch yourself, you correct course, you continue. This is maturity. This is ownership. This is the beginning of freedom that lasts. You are not fighting yourself. You are leading yourself. And leadership is learned through repetition. As this first part closes, you are standing in a new position. Not defensive, not ashamed, responsible, clear. The excuses you once believed are losing their authority, not because you forced them out, but because you outgrew them. The deeper layers are coming, and they will ask you to choose again. Stay present, stay honest. The real shift has already begun. Once you see excuses clearly, you start hearing them differently. They lose their authority. They no longer sound like truth. They sound like habits repeating themselves. Familiar, predictable, almost tired. You notice how they arrive at the same moments every time, when effort is required, when consistency is tested, when progress demands patience. This awareness gives you space, and in that space you gain choice. You don't rush to silence the excuse. You let it speak, then you decide. That pause is power. Responsibility deepens here, not as pressure but as clarity. You stop asking what is fair and start asking what is required. Fairness keeps you looking outward. Responsibility brings you back inward. You begin to understand that waiting for ideal conditions is another form of delay. Conditions are rarely ideal, and yet progress is still possible. You stop measuring your effort against circumstances and start measuring it against your standard. This shift changes how you experience difficulty. Difficulty becomes information, not a verdict. It tells you where to adjust, not whether to quit. Emotional maturity shows itself in how you respond to resistance. You don't dramatize it, you don't suppress it, you acknowledge it, you name it, and then you move forward anyway. You allow yourself to feel discomfort without letting it become a story. This is a critical skill, because most excuses are emotional reactions that never learned how to pass through. You are teaching them to pass. You feel doubt and you act. You feel fatigue and you act. You feel uncertainty and you act with care instead of delay. This is self-leadership in real time. You begin to recognize how often excuses were tied to identity. I'm just not that type of person. I've always struggled with, that's not how I work best. These are not facts. They are identities you rehearsed long enough to believe. You are not attacking, you are questioning them calmly, honestly. Who would I be if I stopped repeating this? What would change if I acted without this explanation? These questions open doors. They don't demand immediate answers. They invite experimentation. And experimentation leads to growth. Ownership requires you to accept that you are both the cause and the solution. That truth is uncomfortable for a moment. Then it becomes freeing. Because if you are the cause, you can also be the one who changes the pattern. You no longer wait for motivation to rescue you. You no longer wait for clarity to arrive before acting. Action creates clarity. Movement reveals direction. You learn this by experience, not theory. Each time you act without an excuse, something shifts internally. You feel stronger, more grounded, more capable. The mind will test you. It will offer new versions of old story, more refined, more convincing. This is normal. Habits don't disappear quietly. They adapt. Your job is not to eliminate them completely. Your job is to stop letting them decide. You interrupt gently but firmly. No more stories. You don't need to justify your effort. You don't need to explain your consistency. You don't need to defend your standards. You choose, and then you act. Self-leadership becomes visible in small moments. Moments no one sees. You choose to start when it would be easy to wait. You choose to finish when it would be easy to stop. You choose to stay focused when distraction offers relief. These choices are not heroic, they are discipline. And discipline practiced repeatedly becomes character. Character becomes reputation. Reputation begins with self. You are building a reputation with yourself right now. One of reliability, one of honesty, one of follow-through. You start to notice that excuses lose they are emotional charge when they are no longer effective. They appear but they don't move you. This creates a new kind of confidence, quiet, unshakable. You know that even when resistance shows up, it won't stop you. That knowledge reduces fear. Fear thrives on uncertainty. Certainty grows when you trust your own response. You are becoming certain of how you respond. That certainty is freedom. There is relief in this state. Not relief from effort, but relief from internal conflict. You are no longer arguing with yourself all day. You decide once and move on. This conserves energy. That energy goes into execution, into refinement, into progress. You feel lighter because you are no longer carrying excuses as emotional baggage. You are walking forward without explanations weighing you down. You begin to respect yourself more deeply, not because everything is perfect, but because you are honest. You don't hide from your own behavior, you correct it. You don't excuse misstandard, you adjust and continue. This honesty builds trust. Trust builds confidence. Confidence reduces the need for excuses. The cycle is reversing. You can feel it. You choose again here, not dramatically, quietly. You choose to take responsibility without self-attack. You choose to lead yourself without force. You choose to replace stories with standard. This choice is becoming more natural, less effortful, more integrated. The war with excuses is shifting in your favor, not because you are fighting harder, but because you are no longer feeling. As this part closes, you are standing in ownership more firmly. You don't need to declare it. You feel it in how you move through your day, in how you respond to resistance, in how quickly you return to action. The final layer of this chapter will ask you to let go of excuses completely, not by pushing them away, but by outgrowing them. Stay present. Stay honest. The decisive moment is next. This is where the habit finally breaks. Not with force, with clarity. You reach a point where excuses no longer feel tempting, not because they disappeared, but because you see the cost too clearly to obey them again. You understand what they steal: time, momentum, self-trust. And once you truly understand that cost, excuses lose their power. You don't need to fight them anymore. You outgrow them. Ownership settles into your identity fully, quietly. You no longer feel the urge to explain yourself. You don't need to justify why you act when you act. You don't need permission to take responsibility. Responsibility is no longer something you step into occasionally. It's how you operate. This changes how you experience effort. Effort is no longer something happening. It is something you choose. That choice restores control. Control creates freedom. You notice how clean your decisions feel now. No inner debate, no mental noise. You decide, you act, you adjust. This simplicity is powerful. Life does not become easier, but it becomes clearer. Clear standards replace flexible excuses. Clear direction replaces emotional hesitation. You are no longer waiting for the right moment. You create momentum in the moment you have. That is self-leadership in its purest form. Emotional maturity is visible in how you handle setbacks now. You don't turn them into stories about who you are. You treat them as feedback, information, data. You respond without drama. You correct without self-attack. This keeps you moving forward. Excuses thrive on emotional exaggeration. You've removed that fuel. Without it, they fade naturally. You remain steady. There is a quiet strength that comes from knowing you will not abandon yourself. You don't promise what you won't keep. You don't hide behind reasons when effort is required. You show up honestly. That honesty builds trust. And trust creates confidence that does not depend on success or failure. It depends on consistency. You are consistent now, not perfect, reliable. You see clearly how excuses once gave you a sense of comfort at the cost of progress. That trade no longer makes sense to you. You are willing to feel discomfort in exchange for growth. You are willing to feel uncertainty in exchange for direction. This willingness expands your capacity. You are no longer limited by what feels. You are guided by what is necessary. No more stories. This is not a command shouted in anger. It is a line you no longer cross. You don't lie to yourself. You don't dramatize difficult. You don't soften standards to protect comfort. You speak plainly. You act deliberately. You choose. That choice is yours every day. And you choose again and again. You choose effort over explanation. You choose action over delay. You choose ownership over excuse. Your excuses are gone, not because you destroyed them, but because you replaced them with responsibility. Responsibility gives you something excuses never could. Freedom. Freedom to act without negotiation. Freedom to trust yourself. Freed. To move forward without carrying the weight of justification. This freedom changes how you approach the future. You don't fear challenges. You don't fear responsibility. You don't fear hard days. You know how you will respond. That certainty is power. It stabilizes you. It grounds you. It allows you to lead yourself through whatever comes next. As this chapter closes, you stand in a different place than where you began. Clear, accountable, calm. The war is over because the habit has been replaced. You are no longer someone who waits for reasons. You are someone who decides. And that decision has unlocked a level of freedom you cannot unlearn. What comes next will demand even more from you. More consistency, more focus, more leadership. But excuses will not be part of that journey anymore. You have outgrown them, and you are ready to keep going. Chapter 7. Building the Unshakable Routine. There comes a moment when effort alone is no longer enough. You've pushed, you've committed, you've proven you can endure. Now something deeper is required, something quieter, structure, not rigid, reliable. This is where routine enters, not as a constraint, but as support. Routine is not about control for control's sake. It's about removing friction so your energy can be spent where it matters. You are no longer experimenting who you want to be. You are installing who you are. Calm yourself and recognize this truth. Motivation brought you. Systems will take you forward. An unshakable routine does not begin with intensity. It begins with rhythm. Rhythm creates predictability. Predictability creates stability. Stability creates sustainability. You are not trying to win a single day. You are building days that win together. Morning, evening, focus, recovery. These are not tasks, they are anchors. Anchors keep you steady when emotion fluctuates. You no longer wake up asking what the day will bring. You wake up knowing how you will meet it. That certainty is powerful. It quiets the mind. It directs the body. It prepares you before pressure arrives. Mornings become intentional, not rushed, not chaotic, claimed. You stop giving the first moments of your day away. You take them back. You decide how the day starts. That decision matters more than most people realize. The tone you set in the morning echoes through everything that follows. When you begin with structure, you carry it forward. You don't need elaborate ritual. You need consistency. Same time, same effort. You show up for the morning you designed, not the one circumstance hands you. This is leadership over self at the most practical level. Focus blocks are where your routine proves its value. You stop scattering effort across too many things. You concentrate it. Focus is not something you hope for. It is something you schedule. When focus has a place, it shows up. You protect that time. You remove distractions. You commit fully, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. This is how quality work is produced. Not by waiting for inspiration, but by creating conditions where attention can Systems beat motivation here. Motivation fades. Systems remain. As structure settles in, tension appears again. The old part of you resists repetition. It wants variety. It wants novelty. It wants freedom defined as absence of commitment. You recognize this resistance without giving it authority. You understand something now. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is doing what matters without internal conflict. Routine removes that conflict. It eliminates daily negotiation. You don't decide whether to work. You work because it's time. You don't decide whether to rest. You rest because it's scheduled. This clarity conserves energy. Conserved energy becomes momentum. Energy management becomes a priority, not just output. Input, recovery. You stop glorifying exhaustion. You stop confusing busyness with effectiveness. You build recovery into the system, not as reward, as requirement. Rest is not what you do when everything is finished. It is what allows you to continue tomorrow. This perspective changes how you pace yourself. You are no longer sprinting randomly. You are moving with intention. Sustainability becomes the goal. Because sustainability wins every long game. Evenings take on purpose now. They are no longer leftovers of the day. They are preparation for the next one. You close loops. You reflect briefly. You shut things down instead of letting them bleed into rest. This creates mental clarity. You don't carry unresolved noise into sleep. Sleep becomes deeper. Recovery becomes real. And that recovery feeds back into your morning. The cycle strengthens. This is how routine compounds, quietly, consistently, without drama. There is relief in this structure. You feel it almost immediately. Less decision fatigue, less internal debate, less wasted effort. You know where your energy goes. You know when it's protected. You know when it's replenished. This relief does not make you passive. It makes you precise. You act with intention because the system supports you. You are no longer relying on willpower to get through the day. Willpower is limited. Systems are scalable. Empowerment grows as the routine becomes familiar. You trust it. You lean on it. You stop questioning it every day. That trust changes your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who operates with structure, someone who honors rhythm, someone who does not leave progress to chance. This is who you are now, not because you said it, but because you live it. Repetition is writing identity into your nervous system. Each day you follow the routine, that identity becomes stronger. There will be days when things don't go perfectly. Interruptions, delays, fatigue. The routine is not fragile, it is adaptable. You don't abandon it because one day is imperfect. You return to it at the next opportunity. This resilience is key. You are building something unshakable because it is not dependent on ideal conditions. It works in real life. It works under pressure. It works when motivation is low. That is the test of any system, and yours is passing. Same time, same effort. These words are not restrictive, they are grounding. They bring you back to what matters when distraction tries to pull you away. You don't need to reinvent yourself every week. You need to reinforce yourself daily. This reinforcement is happening now, quietly, firmly. The routine is becoming the backbone of your identity. You can feel it, the steadiness, the clarity, the calm confidence that comes from knowing how your days are built. As this part closes, the structure is installed but not complete. You've laid the foundation. The rhythm is forming. The system is holding. The next layer will deepen this routine under pressure. It will test its strength, and it will show you how unshakable it can become when life pushes back. Stay steady. Stay consistent. This is who you are now. Once the routine is in motion, it begins to reveal its real purpose. It is not there to make life rigid. It is there to make life reliable. You start to feel the difference in your body and mind. Less scrambling, less reacting, more steadiness. You move through your day with a quiet confidence because you know what comes next. That knowledge creates calm. Calm sharpens focus. Focus improves execution. This is how rhythm turns into power. You begin to notice how your energy responds to consistency. When your days follow a predictable pattern, your body adapts. Your mind adapts. You stop wasting energy adjusting to chaos. You stop burning effort on constant transitions. Energy becomes available, real energy, the kind you can direct intentionally. This is where energy management becomes a skill, not a guess. You learn when to push and when to pull back, when to concentrate deeply and when to recover fully. This awareness changes how long you can sustain effort. Sustainability becomes focus blocks deepen here. You stop treating them casually. They are no longer optional. They are protected. You defend them from interruption. You respect them. When the time arrives, you step in fully. No half effort, no divided attention. You give your best to the block in front of you, then you release it when it ends. This containment is important. It prevents burnout. It prevents overreach. It keeps effort clean. Focus is not endless. It is intense and contained. That containment is what allows you to return tomorrow just as strong. There is tension in this phase, the tension of repetition, doing the same thing again and again. And again, the old impulse to seek novelty resurfaces. It whispers that you should change things up. That consistency is dull. That variety equals growth. You pause, you remember the lesson. Growth is not novelty. Growth is depth. Depth requires repetition. Mastery requires rhythm. You do not abandon what works because it is familiar. You refine it. This decision strengthens. It trains patience. Patience expands capacity. Mornings become steadier. You don't think about them as much. You move through them with intention without needing effortful thought. This is the sign that the routine is integrating. When behavior becomes automatic, mental space opens. That space can now be used for strategy, creativity, and long-term thinking. Routine does not limit thinking. It enables it because you are no longer consumed by the basics. They are handled reliably. Evenings continue to anchor. You end days deliberately. You close the loop. You prepare for rest instead of collapsing into it. This improves recovery. Recovery improves tomorrow. Tomorrow reinforces the system. The cycle strengthens. You are no longer hoping to feel ready in the morning. You are preparing to be ready. That preparation removes anxiety. You go to sleep knowing the structure is waiting for you. That knowledge is comforting. It creates trust. Trust allows rest. You begin to see how many people live without rhythm, always reacting, always adjusting, always fatigued, not because they lack effort, but because they lack structure. You are no longer in that pattern. You have stepped into something more sustainable. This doesn't make you superior, it makes you prepared. Prepared people handle pressure differently. They don't panic when things get busy. They lean on their system, and the system holds. Systems beat motivation. You see this clearly now. Motivation fluctuates with mood, energy, and circumstance. Systems remain. They carry you through low days and high days alike. They don't care how you feel. They care that you show up. And showing up is what builds consistency. Consistency builds confidence. Confidence stabilizes identity. The chain is solidifying. You are no longer dependent on emotional peaks to move forward. You are grounded in rhythm. There is relief in this stage. Relief from unpredictability. Relief from constant self-negotiation. You don't argue with yourself about what to do next. The routine answers for you. That answer frees you to focus on how well you will do it. Quality improves naturally. You are no longer scattered. You are concentrated. This concentration produces results that feel earned and repeatable. Energy management becomes intuitive over time. You notice when you are pushing too hard. You notice when recovery is needed. You adjust without guilt, without drama. This self-awareness is a sign of maturity. You are no longer trying to prove toughness by ignoring limits. You are building strength by respecting. This respect extends the life of your effort. It allows you to show up again tomorrow with clarity instead of exhaustion. There will be disruptions, unexpected demands, changes you did not plan for. The routine does not collapse, it adapts. You return to it as soon as possible. This return is key. You do not abandon structure because of imperfection. You reinforce it by coming back. This resilience makes the routine unshakable. It is not dependent on ideal conditions. It functions in real life, and real life is where progress must happen. Same time, same effort. These words carry deeper meaning now. They represent commitment to rhythm over impulse, to sustainability over intensity. You don't need to reinvent your approach every week. You need to repeat what works until it becomes part of you. This repetition is carving identity into action. You are no longer trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined because your environment supports it. You feel more grounded, more capable, more in control. Not because life slowed down, but because you stopped letting it dictate your behavior. The routine is holding you steady, and that steadiness is preparing you for greater responsibility. You are building capacity quietly, capacity that will be tested, capacity that will be required. The next layer will push this system further. It will ask if it can hold under real pressure. Stay consistent, stay committed. The structure is ready for the test. Now the routine is no longer something you think about. It is something you rely on. It holds you steady when emotion shifts. It supports you when pressure increases. It guides you when motivation disappears. This is when you know it is unshakable, not because it never breaks, but because you always return to it. Return is the real strength. Return is what makes a system durable. You no longer fear disruption. You trust recovery. That trust changes everything. You begin to notice how calm your days feel, even when they are full. Not empty, full, purposeful, directed. You are no longer chasing productivity. You are living inside it. The routine carries you from morning into focus, from focus into effort, from effort into recovery. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is left to chance. This calm is earned. It comes from knowing your system works. And when a system works, you stop questioning yourself constantly. You act with certainty. Energy management is now second nature. You don't drain yourself trying to do everything at once. You sequence effort, you respect cycle, you allow intensity to rise and fall without guilt. This balance keeps you strong over time. You are no longer burning energy just to stay afloat. You are directing it toward progress. Progress feels lighter now because it is supported. This is sustainability in action. And sustainability is what separates those who last from those who fade. There is a deeper confidence forming, not confidence in outcomes, but confidence in process. You trust that if you follow the routine, progress will come. You don't need to force results. You let them emerge. This trust removes anxiety. Anxiety thrives on uncertainty. Your system reduces uncertainty. It answers the question of what to do next. When that question is answered, the mind relaxes. When the mind relaxes, execution improves. The routine has become identity. You don't say you are disciplined, you demonstrate it. You don't announce consistency, you live it. This embodiment is powerful. It changes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you decide. Others may not see the routine itself, but they feel its effects. You are steady, reliable, focused. This presence is the byproduct of structure repeated over time. There are days when fatigue appears, when progress feels slow, when repetition feels heavy. The routine does not judge those days, it absorbs them. You show up anyway, maybe not at full intensity, but with honesty. That honesty keeps momentum alive. Momentum does not require perfection. It requires continuity. And continuity is exactly what your system provides. You don't break rhythm because of one imperfect day. You resume it. That resumption is strength. Recovery is now respected. You no longer see rest as weakness. You see it as maintenance. Maintenance keeps systems running. You protect your recovery because you understand its role. Sleep, stillness, detachment. These are not indulgences, they are components. Without them, the routine collapses. With them, it's strengthened. You are no longer trying to squeeze more out of yourself than you can sustain. You are building capacity responsibly. Same time, same effort. These words have become anchors. They bring you back when distraction pulls. They remind you that identity is built through repetition, not intensity. You don't chase breakthroughs anymore. You trust accumulation. Each day adds a layer. Each week reinforces stability. Each month deepens identity. This layering effect is powerful because it is subtle. You don't feel dramatic change every day. You feel reliability. And reliability compounds into mastery. You realize something important. The routine has removed decision fatigue. You don't waste energy deciding whether to act. You act because it is time. This frees your mind for higher level thinking, strategy, vision, refinement. The basics are handled. The system is running. You are no longer managing chaos. You are building direction. This is where leadership expands. When you can trust yourself to handle the fundamentals, you can take on more responsibility without fear. Pressure will continue to increase from here. Bigger goals, higher expectations, more demand, but you are not worried because you are not relying on willpower to carry you. You are relying on structure. Structure scales. Willpower burns out. Systems endure. You have chosen endurance, and endurance wins long term. As this chapter closes, the routine is no longer something you are installing. It is something you are protecting. It protects your energy. It protects your focus. It protects your identity. You know who you are because your days reflect it. You don't need to question that anymore. The proof is in your rhythm. This is who you are now. And with this backbone in place, you are ready to push into deeper challenges. Challenges that will test not just effort, but consistency under pressure. Your routine will meet them with you. Steady, prepared, unshakable. Chapter 8. Solitude sharpens the blade. There is a moment when the world finally quiets enough for you to hear yourself clearly, not the surface thoughts, not the noise, the deeper voice, the one that only speaks when you stop reaching outward. Solitude is not emptiness, it is exposure, exposure to who you are without distraction. For a long time, being alone may have felt uncomfortable, too quiet, too revealing. That discomfort was never danger. It was unfamiliarity. You were not taught how to sit with yourself. You were taught how to escape yourself. That ends here. Solitude is no longer something you avoid. It is something you choose. When you remove constant input, something shifts. Your nervous system slows. Your mind stops performing. You no longer need to react to every sound, every message, every expectation. In that stillness, clarity begins to form, not all at once. Gradually, thoughts line up, emotions settle. You start seeing patterns you missed before. Patterns in behavior, patterns in thinking, patterns in what drains you and what strengthens. This is the beginning of self-mastery, awareness without judgment, observation without panic. You are learning to sit with yourself. Silence is not passive, it is active. It asks you to pay attention. When the noise fades, your mind initially looks for something to hold onto. It reaches for distraction, it tries to fill the space. You resist that urge. Calmly, you stay. This is where emotional strength begins to develop. You allow the silence to exist without trying to escape it. You let thoughts rise and fall without attaching to them. This teaches you something essential. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. That separation creates power. Self-reflection deepens in solitude. You are no longer distracted by comparison or expectation. You are face to face with truth, not harsh truth, honest truth. You see where you've been avoiding effort. You see where you've been consistent. You see what you truly want, not what you were influenced to want. This clarity can feel intense at first, but intensity is not danger. It is information. You are strong enough to handle it. You don't flinch. You don't rush away. You listen. Sit with yourself. Not to judge, to understand. Understanding builds compassion. Compassion builds strength. When you understand your own patterns, you stop being controlled by them. You stop reacting blindly. You begin choosing deliberately. Solitude gives you that choice. It slows time enough for awareness to catch up. In that slowed space, you gain intuition. Intuition is not mystical. It is clarity formed from honest attention. You know what feels right because you finally hear yourself clearly. Confidence grows here quietly, not the loud kind, the grounded kind. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop seeking permission to trust your own judgment. You've spent time with yourself. You know your intentions, you know your effort, you know your discipline. That knowledge creates stability. You are no longer shaken by external noise because your internal signal is strong. Solitude strengthens that signal. Each moment you remain present with yourself, it grows clearer. There will be moments in solitude when uncomfortable emotions surface. Old doubts, unfinished thoughts. You do not push them away. You do not dramatize them. You let them pass through. This is emotional strength, not suppression. Processing. When you allow emotions to move without resistance, they lose their grip. You realize you can feel deeply without being overwhelmed. That realization changes how you move in the world. You are no longer afraid of quiet moments. You are no longer afraid of yourself. Listen not for answers immediately, for patterns, for direction, for truth. Solitude does not shout, it whispers. You must be still enough to hear it. As you listen, you begin to trust yourself more. That trust becomes intuition. Intuition becomes confidence. Confidence becomes calm authority. This is how solitude sharpens. It removes excess. It strips away noise. What remains is precise. You are becoming dangerous, not to others, to distraction, to indecision, to fear. Dangerous because you can stand alone without losing direction. Dangerous because you can think clearly without validation. Dangerous because you know yourself. This is not isolation. This is mastery, and mastery begins in silence. As this part closes, solitude no longer feels empty. It feels focused, intentional, alive. You are learning how to be alone without being lost, how to be quiet without being weak, how to be still without stopping progress. This is sacred space now, and you are ready to go deeper. Say it calmly, with certainty, I am ready. As solitude becomes familiar, it begins to change how you experience yourself. The quiet no longer feels like absence. It feels like presence. You are fully here now, not split between tasks, not pulled by noise, present with why, our own mind. This presence is powerful. It allows you to notice subtle shifts, small emotional, quiet instincts. You begin to recognize when something is off before it becomes a problem. You sense alignment. You sense resistance. This awareness did not come from thinking harder. It came from listening longer. Time alone reveals truth without pressure. There is no audience to impress, no role to perform, no expectation to meet, just you and what is real. In that space, honesty becomes easy. You stop pretending things don't matter when they do. You stop telling yourself you're fine when something needs attention. Solitude invites responsibility gently. It asks you to be truthful, not perfect. This honesty strengthens because what you acknowledge, you can address. What you ignore controls you. You are no longer ignoring yourself. Self-reflection becomes not analytical, intuitive. You reflect without overthinking. You allow insights to surface naturally. You begin to understand why certain patterns, why certain environments drain you, why certain goals no longer excite you. This understanding is not judgment. It is refinement. You are refining direction. You are cutting away what no longer fits. This is sharpening. A blade becomes effective not by adding more but by removing excess. Silence strengthens emotional regulation. You are no longer startled by your own thoughts. You don't rush to fix or suppress feeling. You let them exist. You let them move. This builds emotional strength quietly. You realize that emotions rise and fall on their own if you don't interfere. That realization creates calm. Calm gives you space. Space allows choice. Choice restores control. You are learning how to stay steady inside, regardless of what is happening outside. There is a point where solitude begins to feel protective, not isolating, protective. It shields you from unnecessary influence, from opinions that dilute your focus, from noise that distorts your priorities. You become more selective with your attention, not out of arrogance, out of respect for your inner clarity. You don't let just anything into your mind and you guard that space because you know how valuable it is. You felt the difference. Sit with yourself longer now. Stay when it would be easier to distract. You are training depth, depth of thought, depth of emotion, depth of patience. Most people avoid depth because it requires stillness. You are choosing it because it creates strength. In stillness, you learn who you are when no one is watching. That knowledge builds confidence that does not depend on circumstance. You know how you respond to pressure because you've observed yourself calmly. That observation is mastery. You begin to notice how your intuition becomes sharper. Decisions feel clearer. You don't second guess as much. You sense when something aligns and when it doesn't. This is not impulsive. It is informed by reflection. You have given your mind enough quiet time to organize itself. Now it works efficiently. You don't need excessive input to decide. You trust your internal signal. That trust changes how quickly you move when it matters. Solitude also reveals your resilience. You see that you can be alone with effort, with uncertainty, with waiting. You don't crumble, you don't rush. You endure. This endurance builds a quiet pride, not ego, self-respect. You respect yourself because you are comfortable standing alone without losing direction. That comfort is rare, and rarity creates strength. You are not dependent on constant interaction to feel grounded. You are grounded internally. Listen more closely now, not for noise, for alignment. Solitude teaches you how to hear when something is right. It also teaches you when something is wrong before it becomes obvious. This early awareness is powerful. It allows you to adjust course early, to conserve energy, to avoid unnecessary conflict. You move smarter because you are listening instead of reacting. This is the sharpening effect. You are becoming precise. Emotional strength grows when you realize you don't need to resolve everything. Some questions require time. Some clarity arrives only after patience. Solitude teaches you to wait without anxiety, to trust process, to allow understanding to unfold. This patience stabilizes. You are no longer rushing for answers. You are preparing yourself to receive. That preparation is active. It builds focus. It builds endurance. It builds confidence. You are becoming dangerous because you are no longer easily influenced. You think before you act. You feel without being controlled. You choose without hesitation. Solitude has given you space to build internal authority, authority that does not announce itself, authority that simply exists. When you speak now, it is measured. When you decide, it is deliberate. This is not withdrawal from the world. This is preparation to engage it from a position of strength. As this part comes to a close, solitude feels less like a phase and more like a tool you can return to whenever clarity is needed. You are no longer afraid of being alone with your thoughts. You trust yourself there. That trust is sharpening you further. The final layer is coming, where solitude becomes not just strength but command. Stay still. Stay present. The blade is almost fully formed. Now solitude stops being something you enter and becomes something you carry. You don't need complete isolation anymore to access clarity. The blade has been sharpened. The edge remains with you. You can be in the world without being consumed by it. You can move through noise without losing your center. That is mastery. Solitude taught you how to stand firmly inside yourself, and that firmness does not disappear when others are present. It anchors. You notice how differently you respond now. Conversations don't pull you off balance. Opinions don't rush you into reaction. Pressure doesn't scatter your thinking. You pause, you listen, you choose. That pause is not hesitation. It is command. Command over your attention. Command over your emotions. Command over your direction. You are no longer trying to keep up with the world's pace. You move at your own, and that pace is deliberate. Silence has trained you to hear what matters. You can sense when something deserves your energy and when it does not. This discernment protects you. It keeps your effort clean. You don't overextend. You don't chase distractions disguised as opportunities. You know the difference now. Solitude gave you that filter. Without it, everything feels urgent. With it, only what matters remains. This clarity saves time. It saves energy. It saves you from unnecessary battles. Self-mastery becomes visible, not as control over everything, but as control over yourself. You are not ruled by impulse. You are not pushed by fear of missing out. You are not pulled by validation. You act from alignment. Alignment feels calm. It feels steady. It feels right even when it's difficult. You trust that feeling because you've spent time listening to it. You've tested it in silence. It has proven reliable. There is emotional strength in knowing you can return to solitude whenever you need recalibration. You are not afraid of stillness. You welcome it. Stillness is where you reset, where you sharpen again, where you strip away what doesn't belong. This ability makes you resilient. When things become overwhelming, you don't collapse. You retreat briefly, intentionally, and return clearer. That rhythm keeps you strong over time. Sit with yourself has become second nature. You don't fill every gap with noise, you allow space. In that space, insight arrives, not rushed, not forced, natural. You no longer demand answers immediately. You trust timing. You trust your capacity to hold questions without panic. That trust is maturity. It allows deeper understanding to form, understanding that guides better decisions. Listen, this command has changed meaning. It is no longer about hearing thoughts. It is about hearing truth beneath them. You listen to your body, to your energy, to your intuition. You notice when something drains you and when something strengthens. You adjust accordingly. This responsiveness keeps you aligned. You don't push blindly anymore. You move intelligently. Strength paired with awareness is rare and powerful. You are becoming dangerous because you are not easily shaken. You don't need to dominate to feel strong. You don't need to withdraw to feel safe. You can stand calmly in uncertainty and remain composed. That composure gives you an edge. Others react. You respond. Others rush. You assess. Others speak to fill silence. You speak when it matters. This difference compounds over time. Solitude has removed the need to perform. You are no longer shaped by who is watching. You are shaped by what is true. That truth is stable. It doesn't change with audience or environment. You carry it with you. This stability becomes confidence, not loud confidence. Quiet certainty. You know who you are. You know what you're building. You know when to engage and when to step back. That knowledge frees you. There is a moment when you realize solitude didn't isolate you from the world. It prepared you to engage it more effectively. You are sharper, clearer, more intentional. You don't waste words. You don't waste energy. You don't waste time. Everything feels more precise, like a blade that has been honed carefully. Each movement has purpose. Each decision has weight. Emotional strength shows up when challenges arise and you don't internalize them unnecessarily. You don't make everything personal. You see obstacles as part of the process. You adjust. You continue. Solitude taught you how to separate identity from circumstance. You are steady regardless of outcome. This steadiness allows you to persist longer than most. Persistence creates advantage. Advantage compounds into success. You are ready now in a different way. Not eager, prepared to be alone when required, prepared to stand firm when tested, prepared to listen when others react, prepared to lead yourself through uncertainty. This preparation did not come from noise. It came from silence, from reflection, from choosing to face yourself honestly. That choice has changed you. As this chapter closes, solitude is no longer something you fear or seek excessively. It is a tool, a refuge, a sharpening stone you return to as needed. You carry its lessons with you. You move forward clearer, calmer, stronger. The blade is sharp. The grip is steady. You are ready to use what you've built. Say it once more, grounded and certain. I am ready. Chapter 9. Vision so clear it pulls you forward. There is a moment when the future stops being abstract. It no longer feels distant or theoretical. It steps closer. It becomes specific, heavy, real. You don't imagine it anymore as a vague hope. You see it clearly. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is where vision stops being inspiration and becomes direction. Direction has weight. Direction pulls. You feel it now, not as pressure but as gravity. The future is no longer waiting for you. It is calling you forward. For a long time, you may have moved without a clear picture, working hard, staying disciplined, building routines, strengthening yourself internally. That work mattered. It prepared you for this moment, because vision without capacity creates frustration. Capacity without vision creates drift. Now they meet. Now your strength has somewhere to go. Your discipline has a destination. Your solitude has produced clarity, and clarity changes how you move. You begin by seeing yourself honestly, not as you wish you were yesterday, as you are becoming tomorrow. You don't rush this image. You let it form slowly. You notice posture first, how you stand, how you move through space. There is calm in your body, no excess tension, no rush. You see how you speak. Fewer words, more intention. You see how you decide without hesitation, without apology. This is not fantasy. This is projection. Projection built on the habits you are installing now. Visualization here is not daydream. It is alignment. You are aligning present action with future identity. You are rehearsing who you are becoming so your nervous system recognizes it as familiar. This familiarity matters. It reduces resistance. It makes growth feel natural instead of forced. When you see the future clearly, your body begins moving toward it instinctively. You don't need constant motivation. Vision pulls you forward when motivation fades. Long-term thinking stabilizes. You stop obsessing over short-term fluctuations. You stop measuring progress day by day. You zoom out. You think in years, in direction rather than speed. This perspective removes anxiety. Anxiety lives in short timeline. Vision stretches time. It gives effort context. You are no longer asking if today was perfect. You are asking if today aligned with where you are going. That question simplifies decisions. It sharpens focus. Purpose begins to crystallize, not as a slogan, as a felt sense of meaning. You understand why you endure, why you stay disciplined, why you protect your energy. Purpose is not loud, it is steady. It does not rush you, it grounds you. When purpose is clear, distractions lose appeal. You don't need to fight them. They simply don't fit anymore. This is one of the quiet benefits of vision. It filters choices automatically. See it? The command is simple, but the act is deep. You don't glance at the future, you look into it. You see the environment you've built, the standards you live by, the way others respond to your presence. Not with fear, with respect. You see the kind of problems you handle now, more complex, more meaningful. You see how calm you are under pressure, how prepared, how steady. This vision is demanding. It asks something of, it expects consistency, integrity, growth. And you feel that demand clearly. The future version of you is not gentle with excuses, not impatient either, just firm. That future self watches how you act today, watches whether you choose alignment or comfort, whether you protect the vision or dilute it. This awareness sharpens your decisions. You are no longer acting only for immediate results. You are acting to honor what you are building toward. That changes everything. It creates accountability that does not require external pressure. Walk toward it. This is not a metaphor. It is instruction. Every disciplined action is a step. Every focused hour is a step. Every boundary you maintain is a step. You don't leap into the future. You walk steadily, deliberately. Walking builds endurance. Walking builds confidence. Running without direction leads to burnout. Walking with vision leads to arrival. You are walking now, even when it feels slow. And when no one notices, the distance is closing. There is tension here because clarity removes excuses. When you know exactly where you are going, hesitation becomes obvious. Delay becomes uncomfortable. You feel that discomfort not as stress, as responsibility. Responsibility to keep moving. Responsibility to choose actions that match the vision. This is a good tension. It keeps you honest. It keeps you aligned. It keeps you progressing even when motivation dips. You begin to feel momentum forming differently, not as excitement, as inevitability. When vision is clear and action is consistent, progress becomes unavoidable. You may not see it daily, but you trust it. That trust is grounded. You've built evidence. You've built structure. Now vision connects it all. This connection creates pull, and pull is stronger than push. You are no longer forcing yourself forward. You are being drawn. Don't look back, not with regret, with clarity. Looking back too often weakens momentum. You acknowledge where you came from, you respect it, then you release it. The past served its purpose. The future requires your full attention. Looking back blurs vision. Looking forward sharpens. You choose where to place your focus, and you place it ahead. As this part closes, the image is forming clearly. The future self is no longer distant. It feels close enough to touch, close enough to demand consistency, close enough to influence your choices today. This vision is not overwhelming. It is organizing you, pulling your effort into alignment. The intensity will rise next. The pull will strengthen. Stay with it, keep seeing, keep walking. The future is getting louder. The clearer the vision becomes, the more it begins to shape your behavior without effort. You don't need reminders as often. You don't need motivation speeches. You feel direction in your body, in how you move through the day, in how you prioritize. Vision has crossed a line. It is no longer something you visit. It is something you live inside, and living inside it changes what you tolerate. You start noticing when actions don't match the future you've seen. The misalignment feels uncomfortable now, not because you're judging yourself, but because clarity has raised your standards. You can't pretend not to know anymore. Vision removes that option. Once you see the road clearly, wandering feels wrong. This discomfort is not punishment. It is guidance. It keeps you on path. It reminds you who you are becoming. Long-term thinking happens here. You stop reacting to temporary emotions. You stop being pulled by short-term rewards. You think in outcomes that compound, in effort that stacks, in decisions that echo forward. This changes how you experience time. You feel less rushed, more deliberate. You understand that urgency without direction is wasted energy. Direction creates calm urgency, the kind that moves steadily without panic. Purpose sharpens in this phase, not as something you announce, but as something you protect. You protect it with boundaries, with discipline, with saying no when something doesn't align. Purpose simplifies life. It removes excess. You no longer need to do everything. You need to do what matters. Vision tells you what that is. It narrows your focus until effort becomes precise. Precision increases effectiveness. Effectiveness builds confidence. See it again, this time more clearly. See the daily life of your future self. The routines feel natural. The discipline feels normal. The challenges feel appropriate. You are not overwhelmed by responsibility. You are equipped for it. You see yourself handling pressure with composure, making decisions without hesitation, recovering without collapse. This future is not heroic. It is grounded, sustainable, real. That realism is what gives it power. The future self begins to feel demanding now. Not harsh, honest. It expects you to live up to what you see. It expects consistency, integrity, follow-through. You feel that expectation when you consider skipping something you committed to. You feel it when distraction offers an easy exit. The future self doesn't argue. It simply waits. That waiting creates pressure, and pressure focuses you. You walk toward it more deliberately. Each step feels intentional. You don't rush because you trust the direction. You don't stall because you respect the vision. This balance keeps you moving at the right pace, fast enough to build momentum, slow enough to stay aligned. Walking like this builds confidence that lasts, confidence rooted in trust with yourself. There is a point where the vision begins to pull harder than your past ever could. Old habits lose their grip. Old identities feel distant. You are no longer motivated by proving anything. You are motivated by becoming something. That shift is powerful. It turns effort into expression. You are expressing who you are becoming through action. That expression feels clean, honest, undeniable. You notice how distractions feel weaker now, not tempting, just irrelevant. They don't match the picture. They don't fit the future. This makes choices easier. You don't need to analyze everything. You compare it to the vision. If it aligns, you move. If it doesn't, you release it. Vision becomes your filter. Filters protect momentum. Momentum builds quietly but relentlessly. There is relief in this clarity. Relief from indecision. Relief from comparison. Relief from wondering if you're doing enough. You know what enough looks like now. It looks like alignment. It looks like progress in the right direction. It looks like effort that matches intention. This relief does not slow you down. It steadies you, and steadiness increases output over time. Don't look back. This command carries more weight now. Looking back creates drag, not because the past is bad, but because it no longer fits. You honor it without revisiting it. You let it stay where it belongs, behind you. Your focus stays forward because that is where your energy is needed. Vision ahead, action now. That alignment is powerful. You feel the pull strengthening. The future feels closer, more vivid, more insistent. It is no longer asking if you want it. It is asking if you are willing to live up to it. That question sharpens you. It removes hesitation. You don't answer with words. You answer with action again and again. As this part comes to a close, the vision is no longer forming. It is established, clear, heavy with meaning. It is organizing your effort, demanding integrity, pulling you forward even when days are quiet. The intensity is building. The pull is about to become undeniable. Stay focused. Keep walking. The moment of acceleration is coming. Now the vision stops being something you think about and becomes something you answer to. It is no longer gentle. It is not optional. It stands in front of you with quiet authority. This is who you are becoming. This is what your actions must match. You feel it when you wake up. You feel it when you hesitate. You feel it when you're tempted to drift. The future self is no longer patient with misalignment, not angry, just exacting. It expects you to move with intention. Clarity has done its work. There is no confusion left to hide behind. You know what matters. You know what doesn't. You know the cost of distraction. You know the reward of consistency. This knowing tightens your focus. It sharpens your decisions. You stop wasting time debating paths you are not going to take. You stop entertaining versions of yourself that no longer fit. Vision has narrowed your options, and that narrowing has made you stronger. See it now without hesitation. See the distance between who you were and who you are becoming, not as a gap filled with fear, but as a path already walked. You've been moving toward this version of yourself quietly for a long time. The routines, the discipline, the solitude, the endurance, all of it was preparation. Now the future stands close enough to demand precision. It does not accept excuses. It does not tolerate delay. It simply waits for you to step into alignment. And here the intensity rises. Faster now. The vision tightens. The pull increases. Your focus sharpens. You feel it in your chest, in your breath, in your posture. This is the moment. No more drifting. No more circling. No more half steps. See it. Clear. Exact. Unavoidable. Walk toward it. One step. Then another. Then another. Don't look back. The past cannot guide you anymore. The future is doing that now. The pace increases. You move. You commit. You align. The old distractions fall away. The old doubts dissolve. The old hesitation loses its voice. You don't argue. You don't negotiate. You move. This is the crescendo. Short breaths. Heavy conviction. No excess thought. Forward. The future pulls harder. Your steps get stronger. Your resolve locks in. You are not chasing this vision. It is pulling you because you belong there. Don't stop, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially then. This is what clarity does. It creates momentum that does not require force. Momentum that does not depend on emotion. Momentum that carries you through resistance. And then something stabilizes. The intensity settles. The movement becomes smooth. The urgency becomes calm. You are still moving forward, but now with certainty. You realize something important. The vision is no longer ahead of you. It is inside you. It informs your choices. It governs your standards. It shapes your identity. You don't need to think about it constantly. It is embedded. It is active. It is guiding you automatically. This is the reward of clear vision. Not excitement, direction, not pressure, purpose. You are no longer wondering where you are going. You are already on the path. And because the vision is clear, because the pull is strong, because your actions are aligned, momentum is inevitable. You don't rush. You don't hesitate. You continue. Done. Look back. There is nothing there for you anymore. Ahead is work that matters. Responsibility you can carry. A version of you that is ready. As this chapter closes, the vision remains clear, demanding, alive. It will keep pulling you forward, and you will keep answering it. Chapter 10. Emotional control under pressure. Pressure does not arrive politely. It does not ask if you are ready. It shows up when stakes are high, when time is tight, when expectations collide. This is where most people lose themselves, not because they lack skill, but because they lose control of their internal state. You are here to do the opposite, to remain steady when pressure rises, to keep clarity when others panic. Calm is not passive. Calm is command, and under pressure it becomes your greatest advantage. The first thing you learn is stress is not the enemy. Stress is information. It tells you something matters. It tells you effort is required. What overwhelms people is not stress itself, but the meaning they attach to it. They interpret pressure as danger, as threat, as loss of control. That interpretation triggers reaction. Reaction clouds judgment. Judgment determines outcome. You are learning to interrupt that chain. Calm does not remove pressure. It organizes. Breathe. This is not a suggestion. It is instruction. Breath anchors you to the present moment. When stress hits, the body wants to rush, to tighten, to brace. Conscious breathing interrupts that impulse. It slows the nervous system, creates space. In that space, you regain choice. Choice is everything. Without it, emotion decides for you. With it, you decide how to respond. You are training yourself to return to breath first, not thought. Thought can follow once calm is established. Staying steady is a skill. It is not personality. It is practice. Each time you experience stress and do not react impulsively, you reinforce control. Control becomes familiar. Familiarity breeds confidence. You stop fearing pressure because you trust your response to it. That trust is earned, built through repetition, built by choosing calm when reaction would. This choice strengthens you internally in ways no external victory ever could. Patience grows here, not passive patience, active patience, the kind that waits without losing readiness. You learn that not every moment requires immediate action. Some require observation, assessment, timing. When you act too quickly under pressure, you often solve the wrong problem. When you pause, you see more, you hear more. You understand the situation instead of just reacting. This understanding leads to better outcomes. Again and again, inner authority begins to form in these moments. Authority over your emotions, authority over your impulses, authority over your attention. You no longer give control away to circumstance. You keep it inside. This does not make you rigid, it makes you responsive. You can adapt without panicking. You can change direction without losing composure. Others feel this steadiness. They sense it. Calm presence creates confidence in those around you, even when nothing is said. Stress mastery is not about suppressing emotion. It is about allowing emotion without being ruled by it. You feel pressure. You acknowledge it. You breathe. You stay steady. This sequence becomes automatic over time. The body learns that pressure does not equal danger. The mind learns that urgency does not require panic. This retraining takes repetition, and you are doing that work now. There will be moments when your heart rate increases, when thoughts speed up, when the urge to react is strong. This is the training ground. You don't criticize yourself for feeling it. You use it. You slow down deliberately. You lengthen your breath. You ground yourself physically. This grounding brings you back into control. From control, clarity returns. From clarity, effective action becomes possible. You are in control, not of everything, of yourself. That is enough. Control of self determines how you handle everything else. You do not need to dominate situations. You need to manage your state within them. This is emotional leadership. Leaders who cannot regulate themselves create chaos. Leaders who can create stability. You are building stability from the inside out. Pressure will increase as responsibility increases. That is not a threat. It is confirmation. You are moving into arenas that matter. Calm will be tested repeatedly. Each test strengthens. Each time you remain steady, you deepen mastery. This mastery does not make you slower. It makes you precise. You act when it matters. You wait when it doesn't. You don't waste energy reacting to every spike of stress. As this part closes, you have begun the process, not of eliminating stress, but of commanding it. Calm is no longer something you hope for. It is something you practice under pressure. In real time, this is the foundation. The deeper layers will demand more patience, more restraint, more authority. Stay present, keep breathing. The training is working. As pressure becomes familiar, you start noticing something important. The situations haven't changed. The demands haven't softened, but your response has. What once felt overwhelming, now feels manageable, not manageable. That distinction matters. You are no longer trying to escape stress. You are learning how to hold it without letting it spill into reaction. This is where emotional control moves from technique into identity. Stress mastery is built in layers. The first layer is awareness. You catch the moment when tension rises, the tightening in the chest, the quickening of thought, the urge to respond immediately. Awareness gives you a choice point. Without it, reaction is automatic. With it, response becomes intentional. You don't rush past this moment anymore. You recognize it as the place where control is either lost or claimed. Breathe again. You return to breath not because it is calming in theory, but because it anchors you in reality. Stress often pulls you into imagined outcomes, worst cases, fast conclusion. Breathing brings you back to what is actually happening. Right now, this moment. From here, your mind works better. Your perception sharpens. You see options you couldn't see while panicking. This is not emotional suppression. This is emotional regulation. Regulation gives you rein. Patience deepens here. You learn to tolerate uncertainty without rushing to fill it. Many people react under pressure because they cannot sit with not knowing. They confuse movement with progress. You no longer do that. You understand that patience under pressure is not inaction. It is preparation. You are allowing enough space to choose correctly instead of quickly. This patience protects outcomes. It reduces mistakes. It preserves trust. Inner authority grows stronger when you stop needing to react to prove control. You don't raise your voice. You don't rush decisions. You don't escalate emotionally. You remain composed. That composure communicates confidence. Even when nothing is said, others feel it. They adjust to it. Calm presence stabilizes environments. It reduces chaos. It creates room for effective action. This is leadership under pressure. You begin to notice how emotions behave when they are not resisted. They rise, they peak, they fall. Stress is temporary by nature. It only becomes chronic when it is fed by reaction. You are no longer feeding it. You let it pass through. This changes your relationship with pressure entirely. You don't fear it. You don't dramatize it. You work with it. That cooperation turns stress into focus instead of panic. There will be moments when impatience tries to return, When the urge to resolve everything immediately feels strong, you pause, you ask a different question. What is required right now? Not what feels urgent. What is required? This question cuts through emotional noise. It brings you back to responsibility. Responsibility clarifies priorities. Priorities simplify action. This sequence keeps you steady even when others are rushing. You are in control because you no longer outsource your state to circumstance. External pressure does not dictate internal chaos. You decide how much access stress has to your thinking. This decision is reinforced every time you choose breath over reaction, every time you choose patience over impulse. Over time, this becomes automatic. Your nervous system learns that pressure does not require alarm. It requires presence. There is relief in this mastery, not relief from challenge, but relief from inner turbulence. You no longer feel hijacked by stress. You feel engaged, capable, grounded. This relief frees energy, energy that can now be directed towards solving problems instead of managing emotions. This is a competitive advantage. Many people exhaust themselves emotionally before they ever address the task at hand. You conserve that energy. Calm under pressure does not make you slow. It makes you accurate. You respond with precision because your mind is clear. You don't waste words. You don't waste motion. You don't waste effort. Everything you do has intention. This intention improves outcomes consistently. Over time, this consistency builds reputation. People trust you with responsibility because you don't unravel when things get hard. Stress mastery also teaches you recovery. You don't carry pressure longer than necessary. Once the moment passes, you release it. You don't replay it endlessly. You don't dwell on what could have gone wrong. You reset. This ability to reset quickly keeps you effective over time. It prevents accumulation. Accumulated stress is what breaks people. You are learning to process and release in real time. Stay steady. This command becomes more than words now. It becomes posture, breath, tone, pace. You embody steadiness. Even when the situation is demanding, even when others are reactive, you become the reference point, the calm in the room. This does not require dominance. It requires control, control that is internal, quiet, firm. You are in control when you choose not to escalate, when you choose not to personalize pressure, when you choose not to let urgency distort judgment. These choices are subtle, but they compound. Each one strengthens your capacity. Each one reinforces identity. You are becoming someone who can be trusted under stress. That trust starts with yourself. As this part comes to a close, pressure no longer feels like an interruption. It feels like a signal to slow down, to breathe, to stay present, to lead yourself first. You are not finished with this training. The highest level of emotional control comes when pressure is sustained, when it doesn't resolve quickly, when patience is tested over time. That level is next. Stay calm, stay focused. You are ready for it. This is where control is tested the longest. Not in sudden spikes, but in sustained pressure. The kind that doesn't resolve quickly, the kind that lingers. This is where many people break, not because the load is unbearable, but because they never learned how to carry it without leaking energy. You have. You remain steady not for minutes, but for days, for weeks, for as long as it takes. Calm is no longer a reaction. It is your baseline. You understand now that pressure is part of responsibility. As responsibility grows, pressure follows. This is not a warning. It is confirmation. You are being trusted with more because you can handle more. Emotional control is what allows you to carry weight without collapsing. You don't rush relief. You don't demand resolution. You operate effectively within the pressure itself. This is maturity. This is strength that lasts. Breathe, not to escape the moment, to inhabit it fully. Breath keeps you present when the mind wants to run ahead. Presence keeps you accurate. Accuracy keeps you effective. You are no longer fighting the moment you're in. You are working within it. This acceptance reduces resistance. Reduced resistance conserves energy. Conserved energy gives you endurance. Endurance is the difference between those who last and those who fade. Patience reaches its highest form here. You wait without resentment. You persist without tension. You understand that not all outcomes are immediate and that forcing them often creates damage. You allow time to do its work while you do yours. This patience is active, focused, intentional. You are not passive. You are poised, ready to act when action is required, willing to hold when holding is required. This discernment is rare. Inner authority becomes unmistakable. You no longer need to assert control. You embody it. Your tone remains Your posture remains grounded. Your decisions remain clear. Others feel safe around your steadiness. They trust your judgment because it is not clouded by emotion. This trust amplifies your influence. Influence grows naturally when people sense reliability under pressure. You are in control because you no longer personalize stress. You don't make it about your worth. You don't interpret difficulty as failure. You see it as part of the process. This perspective protects your confidence. Confidence rooted in self-regulation cannot be shaken easily. You know how you will respond when pressure rises. That knowledge creates calm before the moment even arrives. There are still challenging days, still moments when fatigue whispers, still times when patience is tested. You do not pretend otherwise. You manage yourself honestly. You notice signs of overload early. You adjust intelligently. You rest when needed. You re-engage with clarity. This self-management prevents burnout. Burnout comes from ignoring internal signal. You listen. That listening keeps you strong. Stay steady. This command has become instinct. When pressure increases, you slow down internally even if you move decisively externally. You separate urgency from panic. You act with purpose. You communicate clearly. You don't allow stress to distort your value. This integrity under pressure defines leadership, not the absence of stress but the presence of control. You are in control when you choose your response deliberately, when you regulate tone instead of escalating, when you remain composed even if others are not. This composure is not weakness. It is dominance over self. And dominance over self is the highest form of power. You do not need to overpower situations. You guide them. Over time, this mastery compounds. Pressure no longer intimidates you. It signals opportunity to apply what you've built. Each time you remain steady, you deepen trust in yourself. That trust becomes your anchor. You don't second guess your ability to handle what comes next. You know you can. You've proven it repeatedly. As this chapter closes, emotional control is no longer something you practice consciously. It is something you live. Calm is not a mood. It is a discipline, a habit, a standard. You carry it with you into every challenge, every decision, every moment that matters. You are prepared now for higher stakes, for greater responsibility, for challenges that demand composure over reaction. You don't rush toward them. You don't avoid them. You meet them steady. Breathe. Stay steady. You are in control. Chapter 11, Returning Different. There is a moment before you re-enter. A quiet pause where you recognize that you are no longer the same person who stepped away. The world has been moving the whole time. Noise continued. Opinions multiplied. Urgency never slowed, but you did something rare. You changed underneath it all. Now you prepare to return, not louder, not eager to announce, not searching for permission. Different. And that difference is not something you explain. It is something others feel. You don't rush this return. You understand timing now. You understand that arrival does not require speed. It requires presence. You have learned to carry yourself with calm authority. You don't feel silence anymore. You let it work. Silence creates space. Space draws attention. Attention follows substance. You have substance now. You earned it quietly. There is no need to rush the quiet confidence replaces the old urgency. You no longer need to prove effort. You no longer need to display struggle. You've done the work. You trust that. Confidence does not shout when it is real. It settles. It stabilizes posture. It slows speech. It grounds movement. You feel it in your body first, in how you stand, in how you breathe, in how you look at the world without needing to be seen by it. Presence becomes your signature. When you walk into a room now, you don't scan for validation. You don't perform. You arrive fully. That fullness changes the atmosphere. People feel it before they understand it. Presence does not require dominance. It requires alignment. You are aligned now with yourself, with your standards, with your direction. That alignment creates gravity. You walk slower, not out of hesitation, out of control. Speed once came from anxiety, from needing to get somewhere fast enough to feel secure. You don't carry that anymore. You move deliberately. Each step is chosen. Each movement intentional. Slowness communicates confidence. It says you are not chasing. You are arriving. You say less, not because you have nothing to say, because your words now matter. You've learned that excessive explanation weakens impact. You let statements stand. You let silence finish the thought. This restraint is powerful. It signals certainty. You no longer need to convince. Your tone does that for you. Your calm does that for you. Let them feel it. You don't announce change. You embody it. People notice the difference in how you listen, in how you respond, in how you hold eye contact without rushing. They notice you are not reactive, not defensive, not eager. You are steady. That steadiness invites respect without asking. Respect is not demanded. It is earned through consistency of presence. This return is not about reintroducing yourself. It is about allowing the world to meet who you are now. You are not hiding. You are not showcasing. You are simply being. That authenticity is disarming. It creates curiosity. People sense depth when they encounter it. They don't always know why. They just know something has changed. You are aware of the old self here, not with shame, with distance. That version of you needed noise, needed reassurance, needed movement to feel alive. You don't criticize that self. You outgrew it. Growth creates separation naturally. You don't have to reject who you were. You simply don't live there anymore. There is tension in this moment, the tension of restraint, of knowing you could say more, do more, explain more, and choosing not to. This restraint is not suppression. It is mastery. You are choosing impact over impulse. You are choosing long-term perception over short-term reaction. This choice locks identity. You let results speak because you trust them to arrive. You no longer feel pressure to narrate progress. You understand that narration weakens mystery. Mystery strengthens presence. Presence builds respect. You allow outcomes to unfold fully before acknowledging them. This patience signals confidence in your process. People may try to pull you back into old patterns, old conversations, old dynamics. You don't resist aggressively. You simply don't step into them. Your boundaries are internal now. You don't need to state them. You live them. This creates a subtle shift in relationships. Some adjust. Some fall away. You remain calm either way. Alignment matters more than familiarity. You are returning different because you know yourself now. You've sat in silence. You've endured without applause. You've built discipline without witnesses. You've learned to regulate emotion under pressure. All of that shows up in how you carry yourself. You don't need to recall it consciously. It is integrated. Walk slower. The command is grounding. It reminds you that arrival is not rushed. Say less. It keeps your energy contained. Let them feel it. It ensures your presence does the work. These are not tactics. I are expressions of who you've become. As this part closes, you are standing at the threshold. You haven't fully stepped back into the world yet. You are preparing the energy you will bring with you. Calm, steady, unapologetic. The identity is forming its final shape. The old self is already loosening its grip. The next phase will seal the change completely. Stay present. Stay grounded. The return has begun. As you step further back into the world, you notice how little you need to adjust. The environment is familiar, but you are not reacting to it the same way. Old triggers don't land with the same force. Old expectations don't pull you as hard. You are present without being absorbed. This is the difference. You didn't harden yourself. You grounded yourself. Grounded people don't get swept away. They choose where to stand. Quiet confidence continues to deepen. It is not something you think about. It shows up in how you listen without interrupting, in how you respond without rushing, in how you allow moments to breathe. You no longer feel compelled to fill space with words or explanations. Silence does not threaten you. It supports you. Others sense this immediately. They slow down around you. They listen more carefully. Presence changes the pace of interaction. You begin to understand that respect is not created by effort alone. It is created by consistency of being. When your actions, tone, and posture all tell the same story, people trust what they feel. You are no longer switching between versions of yourself depending on who is in front of you. That stability creates credibility. You don't manage impressions anymore. You let alignment do the work. There is a subtle test here. The world will offer opportunities to perform the old self again, to react quickly, to explain excessively, to seek acknowledgement. You notice these invitations without judgment, and you decline them by not stepping in. This is not avoidance. This is discernment. You know what doesn't fit anymore, and you don't need to announce that it doesn't fit. You simply don't wear it. You walk slower because you are no longer chasing relevance. You are building resonance. Resonance lasts longer. It doesn't require constant output. It requires depth. You allow conversations to unfold naturally. You don't rush to conclusions. You let others speak fully. This patience communicates strength. It shows you are not threatened by silence or by opposing views. You are secure enough to listen. You say less, and this creates space for others to project meaning. When you speak sparingly, your words carry weight. People lean in. They remember what you said because there wasn't excess. This is not manipulation. It is clarity. You respect language enough not to waste it. That respect is felt. Let them feel it. This command is active now. You let your calm be noticed. You let your steadiness be felt. You don't chase reactions. You don't seek confirmation. You trust that presence speaks in ways words cannot. This trust relaxes you. When you relax, you become more grounded. When you are grounded, others feel safe and attentive around you. You notice how the old self would have tried to manage outcomes socially, to ensure approval, to soften edges, to explain intentions. You don't do that anymore. You let outcomes unfold. You accept that not everyone will understand you. Understanding takes time. Depth takes time. You are no longer in a hurry to be fully known. You are comfortable being partially understood while fully aligned. There is a shift in how you relate to attention. You don't reject it. You don't seek it. You let it come and go. Attention no longer defines your sense of value. This detachment is powerful. It prevents overreaction. It keeps you centered. When attention arrives, you remain steady. When it leaves, you remain steady. This consistency builds trust in others and peace in yourself. Presence also changes how you handle conflict. You don't escalate. You don't retreat. You stay composed. You listen. You respond deliberately. This composure disarms tension. It signals confidence without aggression. You don't need to dominate to be respected. You allow respect to form through restraint. This restraint is not weakness. It is control. The old self begins to fade more noticeably, not with drama, with irrelevance. You don't resonate with the old urgency anymore. The old need to prove feels foreign. You see it clearly now as a survival pattern that has completed its job. You thank it internally, and you let it go. Identity shifts fully when old patterns lose emotional charge. That is happening now. You begin to feel comfortable occupying space without performing. This is new for you, and it is powerful. You no longer measure your value by how much you contribute verbally or how quickly you respond. You contribute through presence, through listening, through thoughtful action. This contribution is quieter but more impactful. People may test this new version of you. They may try to pull reactions out of you, to provoke, to rush. You remain steady, not cold, warm and grounded. This steadiness sets boundaries without confrontation. It teaches others how to engage with you. Boundaries enforced through presence are stronger than boundary enforced through words. You let results speak because you trust your process. You don't narrate progress. You allow it to be discovered. Discovery creates respect. Announcements create skepticism. You understand this now. You move with patience. You allow time to do its work. Time reveals substance, and you have substance. This phase is about integration. You are integrating everything you built in silence into how you move publicly. Nothing is forced. Nothing is exaggerated. You are simply showing up as yourself, fully formed. This integration feels natural. It feels calm. It feels right. As this part closes, you are more fully present in the world but less entangled. You are visible without being loud. You are confident without being demanding. You are respected without asking. The return is nearly complete. One final shift remains, the one where identity fully locks in and the old self dissolves completely. Stay grounded. Stay restrained. The transformation is about to finalize. This is where the identity locks in. Not loudly, not ceremonially. It settles like weight into the ground, stable, final. You don't feel the need to mark the moment. You feel the certainty of the old self no longer argues for relevance. It no longer pulls at your attention. It dissolves because it is no longer needed, not defeat, completed. You move through the world now with an ease that didn't exist before. Not because life is easier, but because you are steadier. Situations arise, conversations unfold, expectations surface, and you remain grounded. You are no longer shaped by the moment. You shape how you meet it. This is the difference. This is what returning different actually means. Quiet confidence has become your default. It does not rise and fall with feedback. It does not depend on reaction. It does not require reinforcement. It exists because you know what you've built. You know what you can handle. You know how you respond under pressure. That knowledge lives in your body, in your posture, in your pacing. It doesn't need to be spoken. You walk slower now because you trust your timing. You don't hurry to keep up. You don't linger to be noticed. You move with intention. Each step is yours. Each movement deliberate. Slowness here is not delay. It is precision. It communicates that you are not rushed by fear or pulled by urgency. You arrive when you arrive, fully present. You say less because you no longer need to manage perception. You let silence hold weight. You allow others to fill space if they need to. You speak when it adds value, when it clarifies, when it matters. This restraint changes how your words land. They don't compete with noise, they cut through it. Clean, direct, unmistakable. Let them feel it. This is no longer instruction. It is happening naturally. People feel the difference in how you listen, in how you pause before responding, in how you don't react emotionally to pressure or provocation. They sense stability. They sense self-trust. They may not have language for it, but they recognize. Respect forms quietly around those qualities. Transformation Peak 3 arrives without drama. No announcement, no applause, no moment of validation. Just alignment. You realize you are no longer performing the new self. You are living it. There is no tension between who you are and how you act. No split, no negotiation. The old identity does not need to be suppressed. It is simply irrelevant now. You no longer reach for old habits when things get uncomfortable. You no longer seek old forms of reassurance. You no longer default to old explanations. They don't fit. They don't serve. They don't even appeal. This is the lock, the moment where identity becomes permanent through repetition, where discipline becomes nature, where calm becomes posture, where presence becomes habit. You are no longer transitioning. You have transitioned. There is a sense of relief here, deep, quiet, lasting, not relief from effort, relief from inner conflict. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are no longer trying to become. You are being steady, being intentional, being grounded. This changes how you experience success. You don't rush to celebrate. You don't inflate moments. You acknowledge progress calmly and continue. You let results speak because you trust them. You trust the process that produced them. You trust yourself to repeat it. Repetition is confidence. Repeatability is power. Others may try to place you back into old roles, old expectations, old dynamics. You don't resist. You don't correct. You don't explain. You simply don't step back in. Your presence has changed the terms. People adjust or they don't. You remain steady either way. This is respect without demand, authority without force, confidence without noise. You are not colder. You are clearer. You are not distant. You are centered. You are not detached from the world. You are anchored within yourself. The return is complete. You did not come back louder. You did not come back proving anything. You did not come back asking to be seen. You came back different, and different speaks for itself. As this chapter closes, there is no need to look around for confirmation. No need to check how it's landing. No need to assess reactions. You feel it. That is enough. The next phase will not be about becoming. It will be about sustaining, about leading, about living at this level without regression. You are ready for that now, because the old self is gone, not erased, integrated, finished, and the one who remains moves forward, calmly, quietly, inevitably. Chapter 12. The shock is not for them, it's for you. At first you think the shock will be external. You imagine faces changing, reactions landing, silence breaking. You picture people noticing the difference and finally understanding what you were doing all that time. That expectation fades quickly because the real moment arrives somewhere quieter, somewhere deeper. The shock is not for them. It never was. It's for you. You catch yourself one day, mid-action, mid-decision, and something feels unfamiliar. You are calm where you used to rush, decisive where you used to hesitate, grounded where you used to seek reassurance. You pause, not out of doubt but recognition. This is different. You are different. And for the first time, you don't need external proof to confirm it. Look at you, not in comparison to anyone else, not measured against timelines or expectations. Look at you in contrast to who you were. The gap is undeniable now, not dramatic, not loud, but permanent. You don't feel the need to explain the journey. You don't feel the urge to justify the distance traveled. You know, and that knowing is enough. You realize something important. You didn't disappear from the world. You disappeared from noise, from distraction, from versions of yourself that were incomplete. You didn't vanish. You evolved. Evolution doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself through behavior, through consistency, through how you carry responsibility without needing recognition. You see that clearly now. Self-recognition is powerful, more powerful than praise, because it cannot be taken from. No one can argue, no one can diminish it. You earned it privately, through repetition, through restraint, through endurance when no one was watching. That kind of recognition anchors identity. It makes it durable. You notice how natural leadership feels now. Not performative, not forced. You don't need to dominate to be followed. You don't need to speak loudly to be heard. People sense your presence before they analyze. Leadership presence is not about commanding attention. It's about stabilizing the environment. You do that now without effort. Your calm regulates rooms. Your clarity simplifies decisions. Your steadiness invites trust. You kept going. That truth lands with weight, not as a motivational phrase but as a fact. You kept going when momentum was invisible, when feedback was absent, when silence tested your resolve. You kept going when quitting would have been easier and invisible. No one would have noticed, except you. And that's why it mattered. Long-term dominance is built exactly this way, quietly, incrementally, without drama. While others sprint for recognition, you built endurance. While others reacted to trends, you refined direction. You understand now that dominance is not about overpowering others. It is about outlasting distraction, about staying aligned longer than most people stay interested. That is a rare skill, and it compounds. You see your past efforts differently now, not as sacrifices but as investment. Time alone sharpened you, discipline stabilized you, silence clarified you, pressure trained you. None of it was wasted. None of it was accidental. Each phase prepared you for the next. The sequence makes sense now because you can see the whole path from here. There is humility in this recognition, not self-doubt. Humility rooted in accuracy. You know what you can handle. You know what you don't need anymore. You don't overestimate yourself. You don't underestimate yourself. You assess honestly. That honesty keeps you grounded as capacity grows. Grounded growth lasts. You also recognize something else. The journey did not end here, it stabilized here. This is not a finish line, it is a platform, a higher baseline from which everything else will be built. You don't rush to do more immediate. You let the identity settle. You let the recognition integrate. Integration matters. Without it, growth becomes chaotic. With it, growth becomes inevitable. Leadership presence deepens as you stop thinking about it. You don't ask how to lead. You lead by how you live, by how you respond under pressure, by how you treat time, by how you manage energy. People watch that more than they listen to words. And what they see is consistency. That consistency earns influence without demand. Look at you. You don't flinch at that phrase anymore. You don't deflect it. You don't minimize progress. You acknowledge it calmly, with respect. Respect for the work, respect for the discipline, respect for the patience it took to get here. This respect does not inflate you. It stabilizes you. You are no longer surprised by responsibility. You welcome it, not recklessly, preparedly. You built capacity slowly so it could hold weight later. That foresight is paying off now. You don't need to rush to prove readiness. Your presence already communicates it. There is a subtle joy here, not excitement, satisfaction, the kind that comes from alignment rather than achievement. You feel at home in yourself. That feeling is rare, and once experienced, it cannot be forgotten. You protect it. You build from it. You don't trade it for temporary highs. You did not disappear. You evolved, and that evolution did not make you distant from the world. It made you effective within it. You engage with intention now. You choose where to apply effort. You don't scatter yourself. You invest. That investment strategy applies to everything now. Time, focus, relationships, work. You are no longer impulsive with what matters. This is the internal shock. The moment you recognize yourself fully, without needing reflection from others, without needing confirmation, you see the leader you've become, not in theory, in practice. And once you see that, you understand something else. This is only the beginning. Not because you are hungry for more, but because you are finally built to sustain more. Hold this recognition. Let it settle. The final movement will not ask you to become someone new. It will ask you to live fully as who you already are. Stay here. The last elevation is coming. Once the recognition settles, you begin to move differently your days, not because you are trying to protect an image, but because you are aligned with an identity. Alignment simplifies behavior. You don't need to overthink decisions. You don't need to motivate yourself with pressure. You act from a place of knowing. That knowing is quiet, but it is firm. It does not waver when conditions change. You start noticing how often people search outside themselves for confirmation, for permission, for reassurance. You recognize that pattern because you lived it once, and you also recognize that you no longer need it. This realization does not create distance between you and others. It creates clarity within you. You listen more patiently. You respond more deliberately. You don't rush to correct or convince. You understand that real authority does not need to announce itself. Leadership presence becomes effortless here. You don't switch it on. You don't perform it. It's simply there. In how you handle silence, in how you handle pressure, in how you handle responsibility without complaint. People trust what feels stable. They trust what does overreact. They trust what remains consistent. You embody those qualities now, not because you aimed for them, but because you built them. You kept going. That truth continues to echo deeper each time. You kept going when there was no guarantee, when progress was subtle, when effort felt one-sided. That endurance changed your relationship with uncertainty. You no longer need clarity before acting. You act and clarity follows. You no longer wait to feel confident. You build confidence through repetition. This is how long-term dominance is formed, not through intensity but through durability. Dominance here does not mean control over others. It means command over self, over time, over energy, over focus. You decide where your attention goes. You decide what deserves effort. You decide when to engage and when to step back. This decisiveness reduces waste. It makes your actions efficient. Efficient action compound. Over years, that compounding creates separation. You see now how many people confuse activity with progress. You don't. You measure progress by alignment, by whether your actions reinforce the identity you've chosen. This measurement keeps you honest. It prevents drift. It keeps growth clean. When something doesn't align, you adjust without drama. When something does align, you commit fully. This clarity saves time, and time is leverage. Self-recognition continues to deepen. You recognize your patterns, your limits, your strengths. You don't romanticize them, you respect them. Respect creates responsibility. You take responsibility for managing your capacity wisely. You don't overextend to impress. You don't underperform to stay comfortable. You operate in the zone where growth is sustainable. That sustainability is rare, and rare things hold value. You notice how calm has become your default, not passive calm, ready calm, the kind that can move quickly when needed but doesn't live in urgency. Calm allows you to think strategically, to see beyond immediate noise, to anticipate instead of react. This ability becomes more valuable as stakes increase. You are no longer intimidated by complexity. You break it down. You address it step by step. This is competence expressed quietly. You did not disappear from your life. You reclaimed it. You reclaimed your mornings, your attention, your emotional bandwidth. You reclaimed the ability to choose deliberately instead of reacting automatically. That reclamation feels like freedom, not the loud kind, the grounded kind, the kind that doesn't need escape because it is not trapped. There is also acceptance here. Acceptance that not everyone will notice your evolution, and acceptance that some will misinterpret your calm as distant. Acceptance that growth sometimes creates quiet separation. You are at peace with that. You no longer need to be fully understood to remain fully committed. Understanding often comes later, and if it doesn't, your direction does not change. Long-term thinking governs you now. You don't sacrifice tomorrow for today's approval. You don't compromise standards for convenience. You've seen where those trades lead. You choose differently now. You choose alignment over applause, depth over speed, consistency over intensity. These choices accumulate into something powerful over time. They build a life that does not need constant correction. You recognize that the shock you feel is not excitement. It is stability. It is the feeling of standing on something solid after a long period of construction. You built this foundation piece by piece. Now you can stand on it without fear of collapse. That confidence changes how you plan, how you commit, how you lead. You begin to sense how much further you can go from here. Not in a rushed way, in a grounded way. You are not chasing expansion. You are allowing it. Expansion comes naturally when the base is strong. You don't need to force growth. You need to maintain alignment. Growth will follow. Look at you. You don't rush past that recognition and you let it register, not as ego, as accuracy. You see what you've built. You see what you can handle. You see the distance traveled. And instead of feeling the urge to stop, you feel prepared to continue. This is only the beginning, not because you lack something, but because you finally have what you need to sustain what's next. The final movement will seal this truth completely, not as a declaration, but as a commitment to live at this level going forward. Stay steady, stay honest. The evolution is complete. The responsibility that comes with it is about to be claimed. This is where everything settles into place. Not as a conclusion, but as a realization you carry forward. You are not waiting for a moment, and you are living inside the result of hundreds of moments that stacked quietly over time. The shock is not dramatic. It is grounding. It is the recognition that you are no longer becoming. You are operating. Look at you. You don't look away from that statement now. You don't rush past it. You meet it calmly. You see the discipline in your posture, the patience in your pacing, the clarity in your decisions. You see someone who can be trusted with weight, with responsibility, with long timeline. That recognition does not inflate you. It steadies you. It places your feet firmly on the ground you built yourself. You understand now that evolution is not a single leap. It is a series of quiet choices made consistently when no one was watching. You kept going. That is the truth that matters most. You kept going through uncertainty, through boredom, through doubt, through silence. And in doing so, you became someone who does not need constant reinforcement to continue. That independence is power. Leadership presence has fully integrated. You don't think about leading. You think about doing what is right, what is aligned, what is necessary. Leadership emerges from that naturally. People feel it in how you handle tension without escalating, in how you make decisions without drama, in how you don't rush to be understood. You trust that clarity will reveal itself over time. You recognize that long-term dominance is not built by force. It is built by consistency, by staying aligned when others drift, by staying patient when others rush, by staying grounded when others react. Dominance here means staying effective over time. It means not burning out, not collapsing under pressure, not losing direction when things get quiet or loud. You are built for that now. The title reframes itself completely here. Disappearing was never about leaving. It was about shedding. Shedding noise, shedding false urgency, shedding versions of yourself that were shaped by reaction instead of intention. You did not disappear from your life. You stepped fully into it, with clarity, with authority, with restraint. You feel a deep sense of self-recognition, not pride, alignment, the kind that lets you sleep well, the kind that doesn't need to be explained. You know who you are now. And because you know you don't need to announce it, you demonstrate it through how you live, day after day, quietly, reliably. This is where the internal shock completes its arc. You recognize that the strongest validation you will ever receive is the one you give yourself through follow-through, through keeping your word, through staying consistent when no one is checking. That validation is permanent. It cannot be taken. It cannot fade. It grows with you. You are aware that this level requires maintenance. Not constant intensity, attention, alignment. You don't fear that responsibility. You welcome it because you are no longer guessing who you are. You are choosing to live as that person every day. Choice keeps identity alive, and you are comfortable choosing again and again. Look at you, standing steady, clear, capable. You kept going, and it shows. This is only the beginning, not because you are chasing more, but because you are finally built to sustain more. You don't rush into the future. You walk into it with certainty. You don't look back for confirmation. You move forward with intent. Say it calmly. Say it without force. Say it because it is true. I decide who I become. And you live that decision. Final conclusion. You never go back. There is no ceremony at the end of this journey. No countdown. No dramatic finish line. There is only certainty. Quiet, grounded, unmistakable. You feel it in how you stand now, in how you breathe, in how you look forward without urgency and without doubt. This version of you is not temporary. It is not situational. It is not dependent on motivation or mood. It is permanent because it was earned. You never go back, not because the past was wrong, but because it no longer fits. You have moved too far internally to return to old reactions, old habits, old identity. Even if you tried, it would feel unnatural, misaligned. You are not rejecting who you were. You are standing as who you are. And that difference matters. The journey is sealed here, not sealed by words, but by integration. Everything you built in silence has fused into how you live. Discipline is no longer effort. Focus is no longer forced. Calm is no longer conditional. You don't wake up wondering who you need to be today. You wake up already aligned. Alignment simplifies everything. There is strength in this simplicity. You no longer need complexity to feel important. You no longer need noise to feel alive. You don't chase intensity. You don't seek chaos. You move with purpose because purpose is clear. That clarity protects you from drift. It keeps you steady even when life changes around you. You are reminded gently, this version of you is not fragile. It does not disappear when pressure increases. It does not collapse when recognition fades. It does not unravel when routine is disrupted. You built it under those exact conditions. It was forged there. It holds. You notice how your standards operate quietly. You don't announce them. You don't negotiate them. You live them. When something doesn't align, you feel it immediately, and you adjust. Not dramatically, efficiently. This efficiency is confidence expressed through action. There is no hype here, no inflated emotion. No need to convince yourself of anything. The work has already convinced you. You trust yourself now because you have evidence. Evidence collected over days when no one was watching. Evidence earned through restraint, repetition, and resolve. You don't explain. You don't feel the urge to justify your pace, your choices, or your boundary. Explanation belongs to uncertainty. You are certain. Certainty does not need defense. It shows up as consistency, as calm refusal to be pulled off course, as willingness to stay quiet when noise would be. You don't chase, not approval, not attention, not validation. You understand now that chasing hands control away. You hold control internally. You decide where your energy goes. You decide what matters. You decide what does not. This discernment saves you from exhaustion, regret. You lead, not always from the front, not always with words. You lead through presence, through example, through steadiness under pressure. People watch how you respond more than what you say, and what they see is reliability. They see someone who does not waver when things get hard, someone who does not disappear when responsibility, someone who does not need to dominate to be respected. This is leadership at its highest level, quiet, durable, earned. You feel the future differently now, not as something uncertain or intimidating, as something you are prepared to meet. You don't rush toward it. You don't hesitate either. You walk forward with confidence that is grounded, not rushed. You know you can handle what comes because you have handled what brought you here. This level requires commitment, not dramatic commitment, daily commitment, the kind that shows up in how you structure your time, how you manage your energy, how you respond when old patterns try to resurface. You don't fear that maintenance. You respect it. Respect keeps identity alive. You are aware that growth will continue, not in the same way as before, not as reinvention, as refinement. You will sharpen edges, expand capacity, take on larger responsibility, but you will do it from this foundation, this stable core. You will not abandon yourself in the process. That is the difference now. You never go back because there is nothing to return to. The person you were needed noise to move, needed urgency to act, needed validation to feel secure. That version did its job. It carried you, and now it rests. You don't drag it forward. You don't resurrect it under stress. You move with what you've built. There is peace in this realization, not passive peace, active peace. The kind that allows you to work hard without burning out, to care deeply without becoming reactive, to stay focused without becoming rigid. This balance is rare, and you protect it. You are reminded one last time. This journey was never about disappearing from the world. It was about removing what diluted you, what distracted, what kept you from hearing yourself clearly. You didn't disappear. You refined. You consolidated. You became precise. Precision is power. Your words are fewer now. Your actions cleaner. Your reactions measured. You don't waste effort. You don't waste time. You don't waste energy on what does not move you forward. This efficiency compounds quietly. Over years, it creates separation that cannot be faked. You are committed to living at this level permanently, not perfectly, honestly. You will have tired days, difficult seasons, unexpected challenges, but you will not abandon your standards. You will not surrender your calm. You will not trade your alignment for comfort. When pressure rises, you breathe. When noise increases, you listen less. When distraction calls, you return to structure. This is not effort anymore. This is who you are. You don't explain. You don't chase. You lead. And you do it without asking for permission. There is no finish line applause here. No external validation required. The seal is internal. You feel it in the way you trust yourself, in the way you move forward without second guessing, in the way you no longer fantasize about change because you are living it. The future is open, wide, demanding, and you are ready for it. Not because you are fearless, because you are steady. Say it once, let it land, let it stay. I rise, and you never go back. You made it to the end. That already says something about you. Most people stop early. You stayed. If this audiobook challenged you, if it sharpened your focus, if it reminded you of who you're becoming, then don't let this be a one-time moment. This channel exists for people who choose growth, discipline over comfort, clarity over noise, progress over excuses. If you want more audiobooks like this, more mindset training, more leadership, more inner strength, subscribe, like this video so it reaches the people who need it, and share it with someone who's ready to rise but hasn't found the words yet. Stay consistent, protect your mind, and keep moving forward. This is only the beginning.